Hello guys, thought I'd do in light of the end of 2025, we're going to do a review of all things WWE in 2025. This may be the first video of a new channel. First video I've uploaded in many years on the old channel, which I have on YouTube, or maybe just add it to my game channel. I'm not sure yet. It's something I thought of doing for quite a while. I did do one review of Evolution 2, which was in July, so we'll cover that a lot less. I may end up putting a link in my actual official review of that pay-per-view. But it's something I've never really done before, besides that. However, as I said, something I've been thinking about for a while. I think maybe I'll dedicate a new channel to it, 'cause it might be something I do regularly. In what sense? I don't know. Should we do a review of every show? I watch all three of them. NXT, SmackDown, and Raw. I mean, they're four now for both, but it's just too many. Should I just do reviews of each month, which was my original idea and the one I'm leaning more towards, not gonna lie. For, oh, maybe I should just do uh, December review, January review, February review, so on. Maybe I'll just review pay-per-views or PLEs or the big ones. Who knows? We'll see. Maybe none of that. I'll just do the occasional videos, other stuff. My top 25 um, matches of all time, my top 25 wrestlers of all time. So, we'll see. But a brief backstory, something I talked about in the Evolution video on my gaming channel. The YouTube channel I mainly use is for gaming. Straight up, that is just YBW. Um, the 2025 review, I guess, is fitting because this is the year I return to watching this product weekly. Um, I am very much an OG wrestling fan. I'll try and TLDR this as much as possible. But I grew up watching the Attitude Era, Monday Night Wars, which is the best era of wrestling. I've seen all the biggest stars, man. Seen Hogan in the NWO, saw Austin and Rock in their pomp, Triple H, Foley, his Three Faces, Taker, Kane at the peak, Jericho, Angle, Benoit, Guerrero. They went on and on. The cast list was just incredible. So once that ended, I feel like it was only downhill in a lot of ways. And over the years, particularly around the Super Senior years, when it went PG, I really turned off the product. Uh, I was never too far from it. I always had a love of wrestling. When it's at its best, it is incredible. The storytelling of it, the the theatrics, the choreography of it, the performance of it, and the crowd interaction, and everything else that goes with it. It's very much a constant show that evolves. I've always enjoyed that. Returned a case here and there over the years. I would have certain favorite wrestlers who would maybe keep an eye on what they're doing. Every few months, I might check out some of the results. Oh, Tu's the champion now. Might have a month or so where I spam quite a lot of matches, but then it was never really accessible for me to watch until this year. And there had to always be a trigger. That is one of my favorite wrestlers. Well, my favorite female wrestler probably of all time is Alexa Bliss. She returned at the Royal Rumble, and I didn't realize until about a week later. Popped up on my YouTube recommended. Alexa returns to the Rumble. I was like, oh shit, I'll click on that. Pop was insane, which I was happy to see because, like I said, I like Alexa a lot. And then I thought, oh, Rumble spin. Why not just watch it? Watch the match. Watch the PLE, the whole PLE. It was good. And I realized at the time, it is accessible now. I do have more time in my life now to watch it, which is something that I didn't have perhaps 5 years ago, where the roster had improved. I mean, man, for that first decade or so, after I stopped watching the weekly about 2006, I just don't think the roster was good enough. The talent wasn't there. But the talent is there now, and that's the thing. Um, However, am I going to be full of glowing praise in this yearly review? I don't think so. I don't think this year has been quite as good as possible. I hadn't seen as much of 2023, 2024. A lot of people talk so highly of it. When I returned, I did watch a lot of that stuff back. Because as I said, it's like any kind of show. If you pick up on it, you get invested in the cast, you get invested in the performers. and I have faith in a lot of them. I think that's something they haven't had over the years, but they have a lot of stars now. They have incredible roster, especially the women, which was why it took until July. But after that PLE, I felt obliged almost to give a review of that PLE, which I do think was the best of the year. And it was a real glowing review of that because you compare it to when I was growing up watching it, the Attitude and the Ruthless Aggression eras. Talking about 97, 98 to 2006, the women's division was just non-existent. That's something that's changed so much from nowadays. The women's division in WWE is the strongest in history of any promotion. There are marked changes as well. Something that perhaps the viewers over the years may not have noticed as much. But what do I think of when I think of WWE in 2025 as Wick Pointer? One is ads and commercialization. Too much. You have the Slim Jim tables. You have the fucking the Riyadh season. We'll get to that because I'll do a quick review of like all the PLEs, but also like the big news stories of wrestling this year. Oh my God, man, has it been a notable year? You saw the death of Hulk Hogan. We saw the final year of John Cena. 2025, if it's ever going to be defined as anything in WWE, it will forever be remembered as the year John Cena retired. I'll talk about that, where things went right, where things went wrong. But yeah, you know, as much as things stay the same in some regard, I will get to it, but I was never the biggest John Cena fan. He was one of the reasons why I stopped watching full stop on the weekly in around 2006 or so. I actually did return, I think it was for about 7, 8 months in 2007, 2008. That was the days of Fit Finley and Mr. Kennedy and MVP and that, but it just wasn't the same. Rocky, Austin, all these guys are gone. Angle left around that time. And I saw the transition to PG era, which they kind of had to do after the Benoit incident. Rest in peace to Nancy and Daniel. Fuck Chris. Uh, but yeah, it wasn't for me. The fact that Cena went basically into Hogan 2.0. I couldn't deal with this cookie cutter PG product, ridiculous face who always wins and all this shit. Regardless of the improvements he would have made in the last decade, which I'm not going to lie, because I've been such an infrequent watcher over the last decade or two, even, I didn't necessarily know until I returned this year. Um, I would have liked and supported Cena in this year anyway, because of nostalgia, basically. It's amazing to see these guys still going and just the respect, whatever disagreement I had with Super Cena era, the respect I have for this man to have definitely been the face of the company, one of the mega stars. If there's a Mount Rushmore of wrestling, in my opinion, it is Hogan, Cena, Rock Austin, because they were the four biggest. They were the four biggest earners, and it's as simple as that. I mean, you could argue for Ric Flair, of course, Shawn Michaels, Undertaker, all greats, Bret Hart, all great. But it's about who were the face of the company, and they were the four most important men in the history of the company, in my opinion. So a big focus of this year was on that. I naturally would have been drawn to him, to Rey Mysterio, to Randy Orton, who were all still there from the era I grew up watching. But yeah, I gained a newfound appreciation for John Cena this year. I learned that from after the Super Cena years, around 2014, 2015, he moved away from criticism I and many others have had of him, where it was always the five moves of doom and you can't wrestle. I would have been one of them in the arenas chanting that shit to him. The guy can. When he's on, he's on. And he had a few bangers this year, man. The year began, top into it. The year began. Like I said, I didn't really watch anything of January. I think the Rumble was very end of January or just start of February. I think it was actually the start of February. It normally is January. And as I said, I didn't really, man, like I didn't pay attention to WWE at all, like the last 2 years, really, until so Alexa had returned because I knew she had been out. She went and had a child. That's what got me to click first. Oh, I'll click on this. Monster Pop. Wow, the production. I love the production. It's doing the ESPN style graphics and all this shit. I was like, things are different now. I knew enough of the news that Vince had long got TKO taken over. Um, and I gave the product a chance. But the real kind of instigator point was the fact that it's on Netflix now and it is accessible. And it was like, well, it's just fucking easy for me to watch. Have as accessible a way of watching it in the past. So I did miss the first month there, but I did watch some of the build up to the matches. Honestly, I can't even remember the other match. There were four matches in the PLE itself. Of course, began with the Women's Rumble. Then there was another one. I think it was a tag match. Then there was Cody versus Kevin Owens. That specifically is the one I watched the build up for. Wow, great match. You know, in terms of PLEs this year, man, I feel like my review of the year as a whole may be a bit skewed. And I think it's because of a returning fan. It takes you longer to identify who should be being pushed, in my opinion, to get your favorites. That is where a lot of criticism of wrestling product over the years will be. This person deserves to be pushed. Why have they ruined this person? Why are they over pushing this person? It takes a while for that. So I feel like for the first 3, 4 months, I should preface this whole video by saying I was happy as a big and shit. I was still feeling out. I was still working out the product. And what's it like nowadays? What's the wrestling style? What's this person's strength? What's this person's weakness? And so on. Some people you just see, it doesn't matter how long it's been, a gap. You know, I have a brain. I have emotional investment in something that's really good. A match like Kevin Owens and Cody Rhodes is a perfect example of right away. Yeah, this match was a banger. I didn't need to know too much about their characters. I mean, I already knew Cody Rhodes, of course. You have to be living under a rock not to know. And son of Dustin, Dusty, brother of Dustin. I knew all about Kevin Owens as well. Just a banger. I love the fact, and they did release the Unreal program this year as well, which, despite myself, I enjoyed. I didn't think I would. I wasn't even going to give it a chance until word of mouth was just positive for it. You know, one new change as well in me watching the product this year that I've never done before was becoming, although it's an awful place sometimes, but it's a good gauge of fan reaction. Part of the IWC. I'll go on Twitter and see what people are saying. I'll go on Facebook groups, see what people are saying, and have an idea for how people react to product. Will I always agree with them? No. That's why I'm doing my own reviews. Um, this match was a banger. I like the fact that on Real it said something I didn't know because I've been so absent. They banned the power driver many years ago. Well, Kevin Owens whipped this one out for that match. They had a pretty, I wouldn't say vicious. Nowadays the product's a lot more toned down than the one I grew up watching, which was fucking mad. But they had a bit of blood. They had a vicious spot where Cody slammed KO and he just goes basically through the ladder. Really reminiscent of another spot they do later on in SummerSlam. We'll get to that later on in the year. But this was just a banger. And I honestly, I could only say I've seen one better Cody Rhodes match since then. I think that might have been the match that injured Kevin Owens. I was a bit slower to get back in the product. It wasn't just overnight, bam, watch this straight away. So I don't remember if in the weeks after he was involved. But I think that might have been his last match. We wish Kevin Owens the best. I hope he's back soon. Guy is talented. I've always thought that from what little I've seen him for the last decade. I'll still watch matches here and there. I'll still watch PLEs here and there. He always good. As for the Rumbles themselves, well, like I said, I had an open mind going into this. I had no real stakes in. I mean, when I watched it back, I already knew the winners. We'll get to the men's match. First and foremost, the women's match. Besides the moment that drew me back into the whole company, drew my eyes back onto it, at least. I didn't think there was much here. Alexa's return still, to me, was the memorable part and the story of this Rumble because I think, despite me praising and glazing the fucking word the kids use these days, the women's division in WWE, it doesn't matter if the match is produced badly. And this was just a fucking production nightmare. This is me saying this. I grew up with an era of title changes every fucking 2 weeks. Vinny Rue's car crash TV. At the end of the day, I still appreciate the subtlety and the art of composing a wrestling match. And this match suffered from just agents overlooking. They had a spot at one point where Nia Jax comes in, and yeah, she's the dominant monster. They do this shit every year. It doesn't matter who the dominant monster is, someone's got to run through the Rumble. Sometimes it works. I think Kane to win 2001 Royal Rumble. But I will always maintain he should have won that one. As much as I love Austin, he's my goat. Kane should have won that one. Think Braun Strowman 1 year, I think also matched Kane's elimination record. May even have beat it. He should have won that. The problem with this one is the spot was just shit, for one thing. I've never been a huge Nia fan. Nothing against her. It's just, she's just not good. The crowd doesn't get into it. They had about a dozen women in this match at all times, pretty much, all for the spot. I think it was at one point, something like 35 minutes into the match, 4 women had been eliminated, and we're up to like number 23 or 24 entering the Rumble. The fuck is that? That is ridiculous. It cuts the ring off. There's nothing to do. Now, even if you have 7, 8 people in the ring, they'll kind of pair off. Sometimes you'll have 2 people being on one for this team or something, but you'll kind of they kind of dance around each other and have like different interactions, and you can have mini stories going on there. I feel like there wasn't much of that because there simply wasn't room in the fucking ring. So what you ended up with was about 7 different pairs of women on the ring, constantly doing a lift, trying to lift you over the ring and out the Rumble, and just scrapping and brawling on the side and stuff. And it was just a fucking bloated mess, man. All for this spot where Nia comes in, shoves everyone off. They're all hanging over the apron. And shoves off all the fucking favourites. Everyone who, if I'd have been watching it live, would have wanted to win. I know now, because I watched this year's product, who the stars are, who the main eventers are. Well, we saw Bianca go, we saw Io go, we saw Liv go, we saw Vaquer go. What the fuck? In the end, they all go. Livs was actually just after, it was a minute so after. And we were left with Roxanne Perez, who was an NXT at the time, and Charlotte Flair. And I already knew Charlotte won, and boy, it was just a bad decision, man. I've grown to love a lot of what she's done this year. I think Charlotte Flair's had an excellent 2025, actually, overall. It did not start that way. In fact, I say excellent, that's too much, Blaze. It's been a year of 2 halves, shall we say. Because everyone knows it. Even I didn't have to be watching wrestling weekly. I just needed to be familiar enough to know what everyone knew. That over the years, Charlotte Flair, a lot of the criticism about her has been over pushing. She was always Vince's favorite. She was always Triple H's favorite. She was the golden girl. She was the queen. It didn't matter how fucking long she'd been out or whether it made no fucking sense. They would just insert her into main event after main event after main event. Is she great? Yeah. She's a fantastic wrestler. She's always been a good talker as well, one of the best. She is one of the GOATs, no doubt about it, if not the GOAT. But it was just too much. It was overkill. It always has been. One of the rare events I did watch in my years in the wilderness was I actually hosted an event for it. Some colleagues of mine at the time came round, a couple of colleagues, and we watched WrestleMania 34. Because I was really invested through power of YouTube, highlighted in Asuka's run going into that. She did this long undefeated run in NXT, and then she shit like that. Just, that'll forever annoy me, that booking decision. So they killed her right from the off. If you have uh, she returned after 14 months out, I think. You got Alexa return after 2 years out on maternity, and she got a bigger pop. Nikki Bella came back. She'll always get a pop because Hall of Famer, whether I agree with that or not, we may end up touching upon that in this video. But even she got a bigger pop. Trish got a bigger pop. Trish still bring out a couple of times a year to still wrestle because she can still go. She's still a beast. Um, I understand why they did it in one respect. They were trying to get Tiffany over. Tiffany Stratton was the new champ. She was someone I was completely unfamiliar with until this year. And she ended up going over Charlotte at WrestleMania, which we'll cover more when we get to that aspect of the yearly review. But it just, she didn't actually get huge boos from the offset after winning the Rumble. If you look at it back, it just quickly fell apart. And the fans were predisposed to think, oh, well, Charlotte Hogan, of course she's back in the title picture. It's very rare you can have someone out for so long and come back and immediately go for the title. You have so many more deserving women there. Bianca ended up getting a Mania moment herself. We'll cover that because that was a banger. But could have Liv win it, someone like that. If they're going to have anyone return and win it, the sooner they give it to Alexa. She hasn't had a single title in 7 years. Whereas Charlotte Flair, always winning. But yeah, that really hurts her. However, Charlotte's story is not done. We'll get back to that later on in the year. She bounced back incredibly well. But it just capped off a really underwhelming Women's Rumble, and I'm hoping the one coming up is going to be better. We'll see if that's the case, and this is something else I'll rant about in this video. The upcoming Royal Rumble 2026 is in Saudi Arabia, and all the women are going to be wrestling in effectively bodysuits. 30 Britney Spears with the fucking bodysuit, which is just ridiculous because you always have one or two women who are basically Iron Women. For this match, it was Roxanne was in for Owen Howard. I think Liv was in for a long time. Io was probably in for a while. Bianca, they're the kind of women they put in for a long time now. But yeah, I feel like the whole match is going to be lessened by simply the country that it's in and the fact that these women are going to be fucking overeating. I don't think they're going to be able to keep any in for that long. So I feel like any of the first 10 entrants probably going to be like, oh, they're not going. I don't know. We'll see. But on to the men's match. On the contrary, and this really flip-flops all year, actually. It's interesting. I kind of always like comparing which one was better when the men and women both have the same match on it. Same style match on these PLEs. The men's Rumble match was definitely that, just as a pure match. Some good moments here. Joe Hendry's debut. I didn't know fuck all about him at this stage, but I became aware of the meme and stuff, and I've seen him throughout the year in NXT. Like him a lot. I know he's a meme and he's kind of a comedy show act, but it's sports entertainment, and he's a good wrestler as well. He can go. He's charismatic. He does concerts and stuff. So it's great reaction for him. In terms of just pure star power, man, I mentioned the 2001 Rumble before. This is probably the most stacked Rumble since then. 2001 Rumble, you had Kane, Taker, Rock. What's rocking? Rock Austin, all involved. This one was equally stacked, if not more stacked, honestly. You had John Cena in there, you had Roman Reigns in there, you had CM Punk in there, you had Seth Rollins in there, you had a lot of future stars. There's this Bron Breakker spot where he just snaps fucking ISO speed in half, basically. That's kind of funny. Was Dominic in there? I don't remember actually. But yeah, I won't go too in depth on all of these. This is something I'll do more like in depth reviews for 2026 if I do decide to stick with doing these. So we'll cut it down. The standout moments really. Logan Paul, CM Punk eliminated both Rollins and Reigns, which would eventually lead to a WrestleMania program between the three of them. Logan Paul and eliminated CM Punk. Kind of flashes of the future there. By the year's end, they are on opposing sides. Um, and we were left with Logan Paul, Jey Uso, and John Cena. Jey Uso ends up winning. Now, this guy has been one of the stories of 2025, but he is, like John Cena's retirement, been one of the most divisive stories of 2025. And so I have to say, if you're a Jey Uso fan, I am on the side of this guy is fucking dog shit. I'm not going to pull any punches. I do not see the appeal at all. He's someone I knew about. Um, I've not been emotionally invested. I've not watched the last decade of his tag team work. A lot of people say, I don't know this company narrative, but they're the greatest tag team of all time, Usos and all this shit. Bro, I grew up watching Edge and Christian, the Hardys, the Dudley Boys, Harlem Heat, the Steiners, APA. I saw some fucking great legendary tag teams. LOD, I don't want to shit on what they've done. Maybe they were great once, but it's quite clear to everyone this year that Jey Uso's solo push did not work, and this is something I became very aware of right away. You know, maybe it's a better review of someone whether they deserve the push to have an old fan come back a few years out and see it from the start. You see an Unreal pre-Rumble, Triple H is going up to Jey Uso, like, I'm going to push you, I'm going to strap fucking Rocket 2, man, I'm going to push you to the moon, and all this shit. That is around the time I started watching again, just after the Rumble, and it became apparent to me in the build-up to his match against Gunther, who I fucking love, by the way. Amazing. He just wasn't it. It became the question I first asked myself is, okay, there's all these stars. Why is this guy getting pushed? I want to see why. Let me watch him. He does his intro. Fucking hell, this guy's well over. Like, people are going mad for his intro. All right, yeah, I can understand why they pushed him. He clearly sells a lot of merch. Kids love him and all this shit. Intro finishes, runs it back. Okay, whatever. Getting a bit old. Well, stands down off the ropes, off the turnbuckle. Tries to cut a promo. He's out of breath. He's gasping. He's struggling. Someone comes out, he says the same shit. Let's run it back. He tries to wrestle. He can't wrestle because he's fucking gassed. He's winded. He looks, I'm going to say out of shape, but he doesn't look like a main eventer to me. He's got a bit of a belly. Um, he's just not it. And it took them so long to realise, and it quickly became apparent to me this guy has a serious chance of winning the world title. Already by Mania match itself, I was against this. It's it took them how long? Was it December itself, or maybe late November? I think where they finally just gave up and teamed him up with Jimmy. But throughout the year, you would continue to see him pushed as a solo talent in many main events in a lot of the big matches throughout the year. And my summary, it's a very time restrained microcosm of a summary of me turning against him and where I think he struggled. But that's what it boils down to. That's the crux of the problem, really. He's often winded, he's often gassed. I believe in time after he came out and won the championship at Mania, beat Gunther, made him a tap out, then lost it after about 6, 7 weeks of a failed reign. He's even said himself he got nervous, he got overawed, he got starstruck by what was asked of him. People could say, "Oh yeah, wrestling's fake," and what have you. It's not fake. It's scripted. It's pre-planned. It's still obviously very real, but just in terms of being the champion, it matters as well. These guys are basically it's like appointing a football captain or something. You're the one trusted to handle the end of the whole locker room, and the expectation of the company, and be the face of it, be the draw and the carry the torch, etc. Well, some people either wear leadership well, they wear the crown well, they take the ball and run with it, or they sink. And I'm sorry to say, but he sunk. So yeah, it's one of those things that you look back on and you would say it was the wrong decision. To be quite honest, I don't think John Cena should have won the Rumble either. With John Cena, they were always going to give him the 17th. That was inevitable. But the thing that I wouldn't have been that averse to them building it up throughout the year. And then he even went, even if he won it in his last show, we'll cover that later on. You know, I wouldn't have had a problem with it if he then relinquished it. I think he had to win the 17. I think he deserved to win it for what he's done for the company over the years. After the Super Senior years, he did incorporate more moves. He began to give back to the company. He did his United States Open Challenge, which was resurrected this year. Fantastically so, may I add. And he then became more of a bit part as he's began to enter into Hollywood, following The Rock's kind of journey into there, and Batista, and these wrestler turned actors. Apparently he's really good at it as well. So, kudos to him, wishing the best in that regard. I guess before we talk about his run, because it really kick-started after the Rumble, we should cover the fact that recently he came out and said he was willing to do more than the 36 dates that they ended up agreeing on. WWE didn't want to do more than that. I think this was a major problem in the year, which I will officially deem lackluster. Certainly compared to what I caught up on the last 2 years. They relied on John Cena's retirement and knew that he will sell out every ring he's there because it's a novelty. It's the last time John Cena will ever be in town. Last time John Cena will ever be at Mania. Last time John Cena will ever be in the Rumble. Last time ever in this kind of match, a cage match, or do you have a cage match? Maybe you did, but you get my point. Um, they kind of rest on the laurels, creative because of that. I think they just really did. Certainly on SmackDown for the first half of the year, they're really focused on the John Cena retirement story. Not saying that shouldn't have been the focal point, but not to the detriment of everything else. You've still got to raise some stars up. In terms of the way they structured his retirement tour, I am a fan of it though. In regard to, they made sure a lot of his opponents, it was kind of running back a lot of his classic feuds. That had to happen. That was a good move. You know, no one's going to want to see him come back. And I'm going to have to throw someone under the bus here. We're not going to get John Cena versus Otis, for example, or Akira Tozawa. No, it's going to be, there's going to be a wish list of people. He should wrestle Randy at some point. He did a backlash. Decent match. He has to wrestle Cody, which he did twice. And so, and you know, his opponents, I think, were largely done right. There's still a couple he didn't wrestle this year that I'm sure people wish he would have done, like a Sheamus, for example. But yeah, obviously they decided 36 dates was enough. But I completely disagree. But it's part of the problem, man. For a company that earns so much money, and they now charge fans so much money, and they sell out to this audience. I will get to. There's a fucking rant there. It's amazing how they couldn't give them money to allow him adequate build up of a lot of these feuds, and that was a problem that plagued his retirement run properly. I think overall, if I had to rank this his retirement run out of 10, it is a 6. That might even be generous. Big news in this run is that for the first time since I want to say 2004, 2005, they turned him heel. The John Cena I knew. I saw his debut formative years of his career. He was the prototype in WWE, and then he came over and was kind of struggling. And then the story has it, Stephanie McMahon heard him rapping on the back of the bus. Then he became the Doctor of Thugonomics. That was the John Cena I mainly knew, and I warmed to him then. I remember he won the US Championship, his first ever title of Big Show, WrestleMania 20. Which is one of my fondest pay-per-views ever. By the time a year or so had passed, I'd already kind of started I wouldn't say turning on him, but being a bit lukewarm to him. And then, yeah, he just slowly moved into this super senior thing. So I was always kind of more predisposed, clearly, to a heel scene. The next PLA of the year, after the Rumble, and it came very fast. It was literally weeks later, I think, was Elimination Chamber. Ah, this PLA was fucking amazing. What a way to draw me in. This was when I was like, should I start watching this shit again? I'll watch a few shows, see what it's like. Saw the talent in the roster, and I was like, well, the roster's different now. There are a lot of people who are quality. This PLE just captured me right from the off. The women's run chamber was the better one this time. Better match than the men's, honestly, and both were good. The women's chamber was one of my top 10 matches of the year, I think. Maybe top 15. It's around that area. Who was in this one? Alexa, Bailey, Roxanne, Liv, Naomi, and Bianca. That's it. And then Jade Cargill comes in. Great moment. I covered this during my evolution review. I won't go too much into it then. I fell for the same thing that I think everyone falls for the first time you see Jade Cargill. Wow, look at this one. She looks like a fucking goddess. Like statuesque. She's a fucking hench as fuck. She looks like Storm. She just looks like the Storm. She comes in, she looked amazing. She beats the shit out of him. I had no idea what the fuck was going on. I didn't know any of the backstory. I didn't even know who the fuck Jade Cargill was. She just rocked up. I'm like, oh, beats the shit out of Naomi, chucks her out of the ring, basically removes her from the entire match. And I could tell by the reactions of everyone, it was a big turn. Liv's expecting to get beat down, but she turns on Naomi. Bianca's losing her shit. Great acting from Bianca in the chamber. We'll do a quick. I'll talk more about Jade later on, I think, but put it this way, there was no improvement this year after this. This was their high point. It was all downhill from there. Um, I've not completely given up on it, but it's a struggle. Yeah, as for this match, I think Liv and Bianca were the MVPs. I obviously wanted Lex to win watching it, but I think they got the right winner here for sure. Um, Bianca went on to challenge Rhea Ripley, who then a few days later lost the women's championship, women's title to Io Sky. An absolute banger match on Raw. I'll say quickly, uh, my wrestler of the year probably would have been Naomi until she got because I guess it's a good time to say this now as well. Unintentional, but because it was after the Rumble, she then turned heel, and the Procedure of Caution character was born. And man, what a turn! Great turn. There's been times over the years I've always respected Naomi. I was never that big a fan, but she was just kind of there. I liked it. But I lost a lot of goodwill when her and Sasha Banks walked out on the show a few years ago. I wasn't even an active watcher then, but it's a stigma I held against them. She came back, paid the dues, and she was great this year. Ended up winning the title eventually, and then had to relinquish it because Big Jim did not proceed a coach. Yeah, congratulations to them. Well, in her absence, I think I would mark my wrestler of the year as Io Sky. I said she had a bang with Rhea. Man, that program they ended up doing, Zio won the title, it then became a triple threat match at Mania. What a banger. Like, that is probably is that my match of the year? I would say so. I think it was just amazing match, triple threat. And EO just continued to have bangers, she has a lot of contenders, man. The main event with 3 matches involving her and Rhea this year have been amazing. There was that one on the Raw main event. There was that one involving Bianca and Mania. And then there was the main event at Evolution. She's just amazing. She's the best wrestler, best female wrestler I've ever seen in terms of being ring, I would say, and just being able to consistently produce bangers. Um, some wrestlers just have that gift, man. Lambasted him before, you know, vilified him before for good reason. Chris Benoit couldn't get to shit what he did. He was one of these guys who'd go into the ring, who always knew there's going to be intense scream match. Kurt Angle's another one. Chris Jericho, when he wanted to be, was another one. Bret Hart, Daniel Bryan, they just have bangers. EO is the closest thing to that women's wrestling I've ever seen. So yeah, I just want to give her her flowers. I feel like she was always great. People always appreciated her for being great. She really leveled up this year and had an amazing year. So that side, the women's rumble itself, the match was fantastic. There were some good spots. And Liv's grabbed hold of Bianca's spray and she's shoving her kind of like Scorpion from Mortal Kombat S, throwing into the cage and like, get over here. I love that moment. And it was also another step towards Roxanne emerging this year. She is one of the rising stars of the year. It's got great things in the future. Men's match as well in the chamber was great. Uh, I love Unreal Show, them working out the ending. I love that. They're all kind of in a huddle and saying, oh, we should do this, we should do that. Again, really star-studded. I think was Punk was in there, Rollins was in there, Cena, Logan Paul. Can't remember who else. Was Knight in there? Oh, we'll come to LA Knight eventually. Poor bastard. I'm very much on the camp of LA Knight deserves better. Let's put it that way. Yeah, we'll talk about him more later on. The winner of the match, like I said, I don't think I necessarily would have had Cena win the title at Mania because in his final year, it's not like he can't go anywhere from there. That's the big event, or at least it was supposed to be. And it left a lot of the time of the year where you have a champion who's only there for X amount of shows, so they can't really build up any feuds. I hate that shit. That is something else I've noticed about, back to our segment here of the things you really notice when you haven't watched the product weekly in 2 decades to what it is now. Why are so many of the stars allowed to just come and go? What? It's not like it never happened before. Hogan would go make Hollywood films. Rock in '02, '03, '04, he became really a big part player. But it's happens with a lot more regularity now. I'm going to crucify SmackDown in this video. I think SmackDown, for the most part this year, has been utter dog shit. Raw is very hit or miss. When it's good, it's great. When it's bad, I wouldn't say awful, but it's bad. NXT, I think, has probably been the consistently best show this year. Because so many times your big stars are just not fucking there. So it kind of baffles me that they did make him champion so early. You know, Roman Reigns has barely been there this year. Randy, who knows where the fuck Randy Orton is? He's been missing since SummerSlam, I think. I don't know. Um, it's been a recurring problem. And yeah, I don't think it was the move. I will say this though, him winning the chamber, obviously you've got to make half him known. His actual turn, we'll get to the heel turn, the infamous heel turn. The actual turn itself was very well. Probably the best heel turn since Hogan in uh, 96, Bash at the Beach. The Rock comes out, he does the cut the throat thing. Like I said, I haven't really been watching much for the last few years. The only thing I did know about was the whole Roman Reigns finally got dethroned. I knew Rocky had been back. I was aware of that storyline, so I knew the whole final boss character and stuff. But then, up there, Cena comes out the next show. He does his. In fact, it was a few weeks, I think, until he returned. He does his heel promos. You could tell he'd obviously been wanting to do it for a long, long time. It was probably like a decade overdue, honestly. I think they should have really officially ended the Super Cena era around 2013, 2014. Not by him getting squashed by likes of Lesnar. Almost 2012, actually. In fact, no, he come back 2012. 2012, he squashed the shit out of SummerSlam 2014, I think it was. Maybe they should have seen it go heel then. Either way, you could tell that he said a lot of stuff that he been thinking about for years. Like this promo was years in the making. And there's obvious greatness in there. Cena was always the target, always. No matter how much I detracted some of his work and Super Cena days where he would just bury guys of the Nexus for no fucking reason. Where he was the antithesis of Punk, who spoke for the fan, the people, against the corporate PG bullshit. Um, throughout all of that, he was always a promo. The heel turn on the whole failure. The title change itself failed. It's sad to say that his last Mania, the entire 17 moments of him winning it was just an epic fail. Dog shit match with Cody Rhodes. And both of them are great. When they're on, they're on. They had an absolute banger at SummerSlam later on. So there's no real reason this should have been as bad as it was. Besides one thing, which I have a theory from, and I mean it's a workable theory. I feel like it's a theory with, if they say there's no smoke for fire, there's a lot of smoke there. Let's put it that way. But I think a lot of people are under the impression that The Rock was supposed to be involved with Travis Scott. For whatever reason, he wasn't there. He wasn't at Mania in Las Vegas. Travis Scott comes out after a boring match that went on about half an hour, just slow as fuck. Felt like I was watching at an 0.5 speed. And then he comes out, takes forever to get in the ring. So Cody looks like a fucking chump. He's just stood there waiting to dig it. And bear in mind, this guy had already fucking burst Cody's eardrum after they beat down on him during the senior heel turn chamber. It was just such a pathetic way for it to end. The fact he had to stand there waiting for a while, he lost it because he didn't want to hit. I see what they tried to do. He didn't want to hit Cena with the belt. He didn't want to stoop to his level. The whole build up to this program, he was talking about how, this isn't a John Cena he wants to wrestle. He wanted to wrestle, hustle, loyalty, respect, and never give up. Super Cena kind of character. Said he got a guy, the whole mantra behind the hero run, the whole goal, the whole aim, objective he was saying he wanted to ring wrestling. That became his buzzword for spring and summer until everyone had enough. Well, if you want to ring wrestling, John, you did a fine job of it at the Rumble. Mania, sorry. Sad to say. It was not the intended thing, of course. But yeah, I just did not care for this match. Did not care for this moment. I think a lot of people didn't. A lot of people say it's the worst main event in Mania history. I don't forget that far, but at the same time, I can't think of too many contenders ahead of it, honestly. Maybe take a Sid. I never cared for that, actually. A lot of people don't mind that, but I did not care for that in '97. Yeah, it wasn't great. So we had one. That was Mania's Night 2 main event, which was atrocious. The first match of that night was that triple threat, I think, the women's one, which kind of saved it. Speaking of Mania itself, thankfully, night one's main event was about CM Punk versus Seth Rollins versus Roman Reigns. I really enjoyed the build up to all of this. The whole thing with Paul Heyman, the wise man, CM Punk cashing in his favour from him. He'd done Paul a favour by agreeing to be on his War Games team the previous November, sorry, in Survivor Series. So he cashed in that favour and got him on his side. That was the whole build up. Rollins was in many ways the forgotten man, almost here. Even though he has plenty of history with both men. Him being in the match was correct. Don't get me wrong. He had the Shield days and all that rivalry, decade of animosity with Reigns, who was the tribal chief and ruled with an iron fist for so long, and everyone was against him. And then he has real life beef again, going back over a decade now, actually, with Punk. However, the main focal point of the story was Heyman. Whose side would he be on, Punk's or Reigns? Everything about this match was great. I feel, well, And this is another criticism I have of 2025, a bit too much. Apparently AEW is even worse for this. I don't know because I don't watch it. The only thing I've watched of AEW really was Ryan May and Tony Storm's excellent feud. But this is something is really guilty of. The amount of times, man, there's finishes that just, it's overdone. Nowadays, I feel like, what happened to the sanctity of finishes? I'm not saying it should be like Hogan. No one kicked out of the leg drop for fucking years, decades, I think it was. Uh, I'm not saying it should be like that, but one or two would usually get the job done. Maybe three back in the day, and it'd still be effective. You could still work the match around it. I just always saw it as anything more than that. It's kind of cheap. And in this match, the only thing that lessened it, in my opinion, is the sheer amount of finishes that were. Sometimes it can work. There was a great spot at one point I remember, and this is fresh in my mind because I rewatched this match the other day. Um, what was the order? That was it. Punk gets Rollins, gives him the GTS. Seth's staggered. He's doing that thing that a lot of people do when they take the moves. They've not fallen yet, but they're staggered back. Well, Roman comes in, just fucking spears the shit out of Punk. Spears him out his boots, damn near. As Roman's still on the ground, about to get up, Seth, just before he falls, gets stomps, and then Seth falls, and they're all down. Stuff like that, fine. I didn't even count that in my accumulation of these finishes that don't lead to a finish. Again, it's a triple threat as well, so they can be broken up sometimes, but it wasn't even like that was happening a lot of the time. There were times when they were doing back-to-back finishes. Rollins did a pedigree on Reigns, and then he curb stomped him. And it's not even like he's delayed going for the pin. He's gone straight for the pin. Roman's already 40 minutes deep to this match, already taken like two GTSs or whatever the fuck, and another curb stomp at some point, I think. He's been put through a table, and he kicks out. Just shit like that. I feel like it was too much, and it's a real problem I have with the product nowadays, where it's just finisher, 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 and they kick out. And it's obvious reasons why this is a problem. When there's a match going on, someone does a finisher, there's less anticipation. That's oh shit, is this it? Heart rate goes up. You get excited. Oh, this could be it. This could be the fall. No, because they have to do it four times before they can do it. So that's one criticism I have of this match. But besides that, for a triple threat, it felt really seamless in production, and I think it saved night one, which was bad. I don't think this was a good Mania at all. Certainly compared to last year's, which I was already aware a lot of people bigged up. I've watched it back since, and yeah, Mania 4 is special. Um, I also thought the turn at the end and the end itself was really good. And in a lot of ways, it shaped the year. Paul Heyman betrayed CM Punk in favor of Roman Reigns. But then he also betrayed Roman Reigns in favor of Seth Rollins. And they would team up and feud and begin the division the next day. I just wanted to stick with Mania for one more moment because of all the other matches that were on it, the only one that really sticks out to me, to be honest, was um, I'll talk about one other thing actually, but I just want to pay tribute to the Fatal 4-Way match for the IC Championship. I love Dominic Mysterio. I think he's great. I knew enough that he came through a number of years ago and kind of didn't really have it. He was very much a Nepo baby. Clearly wasn't ready. Got pushed right through NXT. But slowly over the years, man, you look at the evolution of this guy, you see he's great. He got the natural heat. He's just, he's got the slappable face. He's got the smug look. He can talk. He can go in the ring. He can wrestle pretty well now. He's very reliable. Him winning the belt here was a great moment. It was amazing to see the fans cheer him. He's a heel that's so good. That's what makes it special here. It's one of the reasons why Alexa's my favorite wrestler. Favorite female wrestler, I should say. My favorite wrestler. Most of them probably on there. Probably The Rock, I would say, is number one. But She was one of them heels that was so good that got cheated. That is what makes a great heel. And he's gotten to that level now where, it's not just, it's pantomime moves, but people at the end of it will show appreciation. If he wins big moments, they'll cheer him as well. So man, like when the time comes, he'll be a monster babyface, and he is definitely one of the futures of the company. Another reason why I've stuck with the product this year, despite the fact that I'm going to be critical of it in all places, is, say you see the talent in the roster, especially in the future, we'll talk about some of the big names that I expect, some of the other big names that I expect great things from and that I think the company should build around coming up. There's a nice segue into what came after Mania, where it was the very next day, the guy who Dominic won the IC title off was Braun Breaker. And yeah, Braun Breaker is amazing. I was already predisposed to warming to him and liking him and enjoying him and hoping for great things from him. Because I'm old enough to remember, I referenced them before, the Steiners. Especially Scott had his solo run as WCW champ in the late 90s and 2000. Man, Scott Steiner was always fun because anything can happen. His promos are absolute car crashes sometimes. He could deliver bang-ons as well, but they were so bad they were good. They were just box office in a lot of ways. He could wrestle as well. He was a unit. He had his look, and you see a lot of Scott and Rick in Bron Breaker. The promo we did the other day on CM Punk, for example, I really loved. Where he's like, "Yeah, I'll steal your wife." That was such a Scott thing to say. As an athlete, my God, man, this guy, they constantly say this thing, oh, we clocked him at like 23 mile an hour on the ropes or something. His spear is vicious. Guy delivers a better spear than anyone I've ever seen. You can clearly see the vision, pardon the pun. Yeah, him and Bronson Reed would join Rollins and Heyman, and they would largely be the dominant faction. Triple H loves his factions. Reminds me of Evolution. My God, did they dominate them? I mean, they were great. Everyone loves Evolution. They still overly dominated Raw from like '02 to '05. The Vision got to that point. They're never going to be Evolution level or great to watch. Um, so it didn't always work. But yeah, that they would largely define Raw's main event scene for the rest of the year. Do I think Seth Rollins is an all-time great? Yeah, for sure. He's one of these wrestlers who is just a walking Hall of Fame inductee. Like it's a matter of when, not if. But do I think he can carry a division or a brand even? No, not for me. I think I wouldn't even say he's the guy who works at the start. He can be the star. He's just not the star with a capital no, caps the. Um, Cody Rhodes constantly calls himself QB1. I'm not even sure he's the star. I mean, it's difficult to say because if you have lackluster creative, I think that's been a hallmark of the entire company this year. It's hard to work with, you can only work with what you're given in some respects. But true stars make something out of nothing. They will elevate stories. The Rock did that last year. The Rock over the years when he'd come back was Dwayne Johnson. He wasn't the Rock. He wasn't the same. I remember him going on and getting destroyed by John Cena by simple lines because John Cena was like, well, there, you can come out and give a good line, Dwayne, in these promos, but I'm here every week. Yep. I bring it via satellite was the famous shirt there. I was in denial at the time because I hate John Cena at that point. And Rocky was always my favourite. Um, but John Cena owned him just based off that. So it never felt like he was there week in, week out, reinvested in it stuff. But my God, man, the second he did, he came back, he elevated the story. That is what true stars do. Austin's another one. It doesn't matter how long he's gone. Whenever he comes back, it's just the biggest pop of the night. Um, do they have that and Cody and Seth? I don't quite think so. I still feel like the one who has the most aura when they come back for me is Reigns, and John Cena was also clearly the big star there. Um, and they're both absent for so much, or they're just not there weekly. So it's one of the reasons why I think Raw struggled. Um, one more thing before we move on from Mania, I mentioned Charlotte before. Like I said, I don't think it began to go wrong. The crowd really began to turn against her until immediately, like immediately after the Rumble. The whole build up with Tiffany just didn't hit. Oh my God. The reason why I'm going to bring it up is honestly, this is the only memorable thing in Tiffany's entire reign. Well, there are a couple of memorable things, but they're all for bad reasons. Pretty much. I'll give her three memorable things, Tiffany. But hear me out here, because this is not a criticism of Tiffany. I'm going to be complimentary of her in a bit. There was the infamous Charlotte promo, your 3-0 in life, that referenced her divorces. That should never happen. That was bad. But just watching Charlotte flounder in the weeks to come in these promos, really feel the heat. She got nuclear go away heat. It was tough, man. It was tough to watch. Two, and we'll talk more about the problems of SmackDown's women's division and the way it would have been in general book champions this year. Tiffany's been hurt by both of them. She did have a great match against Nia Jax somehow. In June, I think it was. That was a banger. And then there was the less good match with Nia Jax, also involved Jade Cargill around October, where the ref didn't count the three, and Nia just didn't count. They were the memorable parts of Tiffy's run. It really was bad. But when she was given Charlotte, at least she was given a big star to work with. For whatever reason, the whole program, it just didn't work. I think the match was awful. It just was lackluster. It was kind of meh, and I expected more. So yeah, I think that whole aspect of the build-up of Mania was a mistake. He should have done something else. It's difficult to say take out Bianca or even Claire. I mean, who else could have taken it on? I guess Naomi was then feuding with Jade. She did a heel turn. Yeah, roaring success. Who else was there, I guess, in SmackDown? I don't know. You could have had a Raw superstar. You could have Liv win it and then challenge the SmackDown champion. And then, you know, so Bianca go off the Raw championship. It didn't work out. But anyway, coming out of the Rumble, Mania, sorry, was Backlash. John Cena took on Randy Orton. I was heavily into this build up, of course, because they are two legends from that I remember growing up. I'm not gonna lie, still to this day, I think I'm more a Randy Orton fan than John Cena fan. He could be an asshole over the years, apparently, IRL. He was at a bit of a temper. He's mellowed out more over the years. Randy Orton was always great, man. Like, right from the off. Uh, well, I mean, it took him a couple of years, but I remember the match at Backlash, funnily enough, Backlash 2004 against Foley. Uh, that really kind of announced Randy Orton on the thing, and I remember very well him against He Who Must Not Be Named when he won the heavyweight championship, the 2004 SummerSlam. Apparently wasn't ready then. He kind of fair story for another day, but he got that taken off him, and then you saw the slow evolution of him. Pardon the pun. As the Legend Killer, and then he became the Viper. So he was someone that was just great. Looks a lot different now than I remember him. You know, he looks like over years of just wear a tail on the road or roids, to be honest. His face all puffy and nice, but the Lesnar puffy face is constantly red. He gets a bit gassed in his matches, so he has to go a bit slower at times. But I think this was an okay match for what it was. Kind of ridiculous ending though. That's all I ever really remember of this match. He just RKO's everyone. But yeah, it wasn't great. Honestly, I said I wouldn't go too in depth on the reviews or the PLEs this year because I'm talking about a whole year of the biggest company that have so many shows. You've got to kind of, yeah, I'll be here for hours. But perhaps it's a good thing. I don't remember fuck all else in that show. I think Penta took on Dom, was it? That probably was a good match. Or was it Octagon Junior versus Dom? Someone like that, or versus Penta. I love Penta. I'll say this right now. I think it's great. That was probably a good match that I just don't remember for whatever reason. From May, what happened? Cena, then it's Cody's time to come back. Cody had disappeared after the Mania. Was that when he was filming Street Fighter? No, that was much later on. Maybe it was actually. I don't know. Maybe. Either way, he disappeared. Do you remember if you at that time Liv was also filming a film in Japan? I still don't know what film that is, to be honest. Uh, and she came back as well. By the way, Cody came back, and there was a program that apparently was supposed to be it's come out since. It was supposed to be Logan Paul, John Cena, because he's a heel still, and Travis Scott versus the Usos and Cody Rhodes. Cody is aligned with the Usos, and Travis Scott basically bitched out and said, just like The Rock, I mean, at least he turned up for me, yeah, Dwayne. But yeah, he just realised wrestling's too physical and it's too much commitment, and basically just said, fuck you guys, you know, he pulled out of commitments. So they had to pull poor Jimmy gets pulled from the match. And it became Cody Rhodes and Jey Uso on a Saturday night's main event. The first one I watched this year versus John Cena and Logan Paul. A very run of the mill match. Not even going to go too much into this because fuck all really have no happened. Jey Uso is just dog shit. Despite myself, I do actually really like Logan Paul. I think he's, considering how much a rookie he is, oh, he's a good wrestler. He can get some bangers out of them. And he's just a natural heel. He gets it. He's good heel. The only issue I have with him literally is that he's not there all the time. He'd do these programs, then he'd disappear for a month and so on. Recently he joined the Vision and seems to be sticking around, so I think he's got a bright future in him. But this match was very forgettable. The best part that night's event, I think, was seeing Jesse Ventura again. And God, it's weird to think back now. You know, it's one of them moments where you look back on like, wow, did that happen? Like, what did this do for either? Priest and McIntyre had been feuding since Mania, I think. And they had a cage match where Priest basically concerto Drew while he's laying on the floor and then just walked out of the cage. Uh, and Jesse Ventura didn't give a fuck. He's talking to commentary like, oh, why the fuck did that happen? That's not supposed to happen. That's not the rules. Or why didn't they specify this shit? That was bullshit. He just crucifying the match in the finish, which I thought was fucking hilarious. And the highlight of that show, honestly, one of my favourite moments of the year. That, needless to say, they did eventually bring Jesse back. I don't think he was on the next SNME. I don't think he was on another one, like the last one of the year, honestly. And they just had him as an analyst. Never had him on commentary again. But fuck you, WWE, man. There's this kind of shit that is memorable and does. Yeah, that's literally the only thing I remember from that show. More than the shitty main event. Well, it was run of mill main event, put that way. Yeah, what else happened? I mean, the White Six came back in May. Honestly, I was receptive to the run at the start, up until they won the tag titles, and I think it's a good time to say this really because we're getting to the summer now, and I haven't really. I've talked about Raw a little more, but SmackDown, I feel like for most of the year was saved in the spring by John Cena and Cody and Randy being there. And Drew McIntyre, I think, is great. He is another one who's so hard done by the company and not utilized enough. But problem with SmackDown is how many true main eventers are there besides them? No one. I just mentioned Priest. He was a champion on Raw. My God, man, is this guy's. If you, it's hard to find another contender for whose stock fell harder in 2025 than both of those men involved in that cage match I talked about. Maybe Jesse Kirsten. Who the fuck knows? But Priest and McIntyre's stocks have dropped so much. Because a big problem I feel like they have so often in 2025 is just having the champions wrestle regularly and being too afraid to have them lose, or being afraid to have any select wrestlers lose too much. It's kind of weird because it kind of does just vary divisions at times. They haven't really evolved the main event scene much beyond then. Cena and Rhodes had that program, and then Cena went on to have a program with CM Punk, which I thought was great. Going into the Saudi event, Night of Champions was it? Or Crown Jewel's the one? Yeah, it was better. Night of Champions it was. But yeah, SmackDown was kind of just left in the dark, and I feel like really, if I could summarize SmackDown for this year, it was spring. Kind of the Cena whole heel thing was kind of carrying. Although the build up I don't think was great, it still like was the most interesting thing in the story and the show. Somehow it was really tag teams who dominated. And the Wyatts came into a division that was thriving. You have basic machine guns, you had Street Profits, you had Fraxium, you had I think it was kind of this team formed later on, but it was Andrade and Phoenix. Who's the other one? There's another really good tag team in there somewhere. I've just forgotten about now. I mean, I guess that's the point. They just fucking disappeared. Oh, DIY, of course. DIY, great. I love DIY. Um, they haven't vanished actually. They've been very prominent recently, but that was with Ilya Dragunov and US type team. But it's strange. It's just really strange that like throughout the summer they carried SmackDown so much and have basically been buried since then and disappeared. A lot of these tag teams because the Wyatts came in, began feuding with the entire division. The entire division were kind of like uniting against the Wyatts. The Wyatts eventually win the tag championships just around July time, June, July, I think it was. And they win it from the Street Profits. And then all these teams went into an absolute banger. One of the matches of the year. A 16 TLC match at SummerSlam, where the Wyatts ended up retaining the championship. And then, for whatever reason, maybe because, they're like the Supernatural act, they're like faction act, they'll come in and they do most of their promos via videotape and riddles and because they can have the creepy imagery and make it cinematic then and stuff. But it means that they're not in the arena. So a lot of these teams they all went into a promo together right from the off, all united against these, and all the teams are fights, and so that when the Wyatts won and they disappeared for long times, or they even went to Mexico and did a program there in Triple A for quite a while. The other teams just kind of shelved. It makes no fucking sense, man. I feel really sorry for them because they did everything they wanted to do. In fact, even going into SummerSlam itself, that match, a lot of people were just saying, actually, oh, this is long overdue. Finally, these SmackDown tag teams are getting a spotlight put on them. Because for so long, the WWE didn't really have them the due deserts, really. Raw's tag division, we'll touch upon this quickly because there's not much to say about it, man. It's shit. It has been for a number of years, a number of months. They are, well, all year really. They are just beginning to try and turn the tide. But I could simply say this: I'm not shitting on the actual wrestlers because I think they're great. JD McDonough and Finn Balor, love them. Judgment Day. I'm British. They're Irish. So we're kind of close. Yeah, they're cousins. So I'm predisposed to liking them anyway. They won the Raw Tag Championships at one point in June, and then defended them once in 4 months, I think. 5 months, was it? They ended up losing them in November. Defended once. You know, Charlotte and Lex won the tag championships and defended them twice in 3 days at one point. So that sums up the discrepancy in the tag division. One aspects of the video is something I'll get to more when we get to the end. It's probably going to be like a podcast length thing. This like 2.5, 3 hours. About the kind of length I would normally do a review of a PLE. At the end, I'll kind of run through a number of things that I would suggest to improve the product in 2026. But I'll say one of them now. Merge the tag team championships for the men, like they do for the women. The women's tag championships were another one for years that was never really given enough shine. There weren't enough teams there. I'll talk more about this later on. But having one set of titles, I really always liked the idea of the champions being able to go on both brands or be challenged from both brands anyway. In fact, the women's champions can also be challenged from NXT and will defend against NXT teams sometimes. I love that as well. I feel like the men should even do that. They should get rid of the men's NXT Tag Championships. I don't know why they exist, to be honest. They're on Dark State right now. I have nothing against. Um, but there's just not enough great tag teams typically in the company. Right now, there kind of is. If you bring a lot of these SmackDown guys back. But also means you could drift them in and out. You could dissolute some here and there. They were kind of, where the fuck are the Street Profits? They were teasing them breaking up for a while. Montez and Angelo going off on their own. You could have them go off on their own for a year or two if the tag division's got enough depth in it, or if there's just one set of belts. And then if it doesn't work out, solo thing, kind of like the Usos did, just bring them back together. Because Jay and Jimmy were going nowhere fast. They brought them back together, put them in the Raw tag division, and right now it looks a lot better shape than it was when Finn and JD were champs for 4 months because they had no one to challenge them. Literally. Who else was there? Alpha Academy disappeared. No one knows where the fuck they are. Uh, the Americanos are like allied with Dom, who's also in Judgment Day, so that was nothing. So until they had AJ Styles and Dragon Phoenix take the titles off them, they had no one. Ridiculous. Well, I guess they had the New Day. That was it. Yeah. God damn. But yeah, it just like it sounds bad to say that the Wyatts kind of just killed SmackDown's tag division, and it's not their fault. It's the way the booking went, but it kind of was the case. So I think that decision in the long run to have them go after the tag goal and just kind of bury the division was a real mistake. The show would have to find other things to carry it, which would happen in autumn. We'll get to that when it comes. Yeah, man. So, summer. I briefly mentioned Night of Champions. Honestly, well, that came after Money in the Bank. So yeah, it went Backlash then Money in the Bank. Honestly, Money in the Bank it's old enough that it's a concept that was there when I was still watching. Edge was the very first winner, I think, or maybe was it RBD? I just associate Edge with Money in the Bank. I'm old enough to associate. He always had this fucking briefcase, and that's how he first won the title. Um, that's a fond memory. Yeah, it's like become something I'd never heard of, but a lot of people consider a Big Five PLE. For me, man, I'm old school. It's still Big Four PLE. If I had to say Big Five, I would go with the Chamber personally, because I think Chamber matches are consistently better. Right, ever since Eric Bischoff in kayfabe, I don't know if he legit come up with the idea, but kayfabe came up with the idea in '02. I've always enjoyed the Chamber. Always. I loved it. Was always my go-to match if I'd um, pick up a wrestling game. It was that in the Rumble. And the PLA, especially this year, was so much better. I'm just gonna go out and say it. I do not like Money in the Bank much. The concept's cool. Apparently Triple H hates it, and I can't see why because it kind of disrupts any long-term booking. It's not. I mean, it's not like the booking's been great this year. When we get more like recapping what's happened this year, I'm going to go on rants about the booking. You will notice me probably get more and more pessimistic as the year goes on because it's my journey of watching it as well. Whereas, as I said, when I started watching start of the year, everything's fresh. Everything's the honeymoon period. You go more and more, there's more familiarity, more I know what these wrestlers are capable of, and you're not delivering what they're capable of. Money in the Bank is one of those actually that it really, even on the night, I was disappointed in the matches. The women's match, uh, man, on paper, it could have been the best of all Money in the Bank matches. It was Julia, Roxanne, Rhea, Alexa, Stephanie Vaquer, and Naomi. Three from each brand. So really star-studded. You know, you had some multiple former world champs in there. Three of them in Naomi, Alexa, and Rhea. And then you had three future stars in there. So I kind of like how that worked out. Three future stars and Vaquer, Roxanne, and Julia, who'd all just been promoted from NXT. For me, Julia and Roxanne were the MVPs in this match. Vaquer was a little underwhelming, but I think she'd wrestled twice in the last 24 hours or something already before this match. For some reason, they basically dumped Rhea out of the match for 5 minutes. They basically buried her under a ladder at one point. Um, Alexa did okay, but she's 5 foot. She's not going to be like carrying the match. And Naomi was barely involved in the match. And this is why the match failed. And this is why, in general, I do not like Money in the Bank matches because it's so obvious to me always who the fuck's going to win. I'll say this: I think they got both winners correct. The men's match was an overbooked mess. It was very reminiscent to the women's Rumble match, but both winners were right here. But I notice this all the time in Money in the Bank matches. The person who has the least amount of dangerous spots, least amount of bumps, just least amount of in-ring action is usually the one who wins. And it's quite obvious why they do that, because once they send them out there, they can't really interfere in the match too much. It's going to be difficult to make a change of a call. Of, oh, this person wins this now. Um, so they want to protect that. You know, it's bad if you have a briefcase winner then get injured. Because what if they get injured for like 8, 9 months? You're reducing so much of the time that they can then cash it in. As happened actually, I do remember in that match, it looked like Naomi did get injured at one point. I think the refs ran over to her and they talked to her. She had a really bad. I think was it Vaquer went for. This always does look dangerous. I love Stephanie Vaquer. This does look like an injury waiting to happen when she does to her Dragon Corkscrew. I remember Naomi kind of hobbling on the knee. I don't know if she was selling or what, or whether she did genuinely just get hurt. Thankfully, whatever happened. She wasn't injured in the long run. Went on to win the match. But yeah, underwhelming match that night. I think that night might have been the Dominic vs Octagon Junior match as well. That was an impromptu one made. It was kind of fun. Don't remember what else was in that card, honestly. And then the men's match was it was going well. Chad Gable, who I think carried this one, and he'd wrestled the same fucking night as well as Vaquer on that Triple A show. That is the show where Dominic called out Octagon Junior, who then challenged him Money in the Bank, by the way. Um, it was in LA, man. It should have been. I said they got the right winner, but the fact it was in LA and they put LA Knight in the match on this lose kind of sums it up. It's a shame. But it was going well. I fought the match until the end. Oh, good lord. Solo Sikoa was in the match. Was it Sokoa or the Vision who got involved first? Either way, there was a series of interruptions where for basically 10 to 15 minutes, I'm not even taking the piss here, 10 to 15 minutes, which is a fucking long time. You could do a PLE match that length. That's longer than any fucking women's match in history got. So about 2015, fuck's sake. Did they ever get 15 minutes? 10 to 15 minutes. They had interruption after interruption after interruption from the outside. And they're all brawling with each other and throwing their guy in and clearing out outside. But some wrestlers got taken out. They're just laying on the outside for this whole time, looking like absolute fucking knobheads. Looking like absolute jobber twats. Doing fuck all. Oh, this guy just got clotheslined. He's been out for about 8 minutes. Where the fuck is he? Dude, it was just a mess, man. It was Division come out. I think it was Fatu comes out first, and he's helping Solo with his MFTs. God, we'll get onto them later. And then there's this. It was so contrived. Everyone knew the face turn was coming. Jacob's getting done with Solo shit. I do like Jacob. I was one of them. I got invested in him. He's got a great look. He's a future star, sure. But if you'd have told me after that face turn the year he would go on to have, he's really ran out of steam. He's picked that up his second in 2026. Yeah, this is the halfway point of the year. After months of being treated as a lackey by Solo, he finally turns on him. Even it took forever. There were so many times he could have just hit him, knocked him out, but he had to knock out everyone else. He had to set the ladder. He had to let Solo go all the way up, get his hand on the briefcase. He's climbing slow as shit. And he puts his hand on his ankle for ages. I hate you. Even then, he's only got one hand on his ankle. Solo could have just fucking reached up and pulled down the briefcase. And been like, oh, hit me now. I don't give a shit. Got my briefcase. It was just, it was shit like that, time after time. Then they have a brawl. It went on forever. Fatu put Solo through a chair, a ladder, I think. And then Seth's guys come out and they beat on and they pull Seth in the ring. Eventually, Seth wins the briefcase. It was bad. It was bad. So many of these matches are also bad, the Money in the Bank ones, because there's so many people involved. Whenever there's a ladder match, it goes one of two ways, it seems to me. They're either really great. You think of the SummerSlam match with all those tag teams, or, the classic TLCs that Edge, Christian, Hardys, and the Dudleys had. They made him work. The choreography is really, it has to be seamless. The problem I have with WWE's production, and it specifically always seems worse in Money in the Bank matches. Um, it's almost like lumberjack matches or gauntlet matches. They come in one at a time. One wrestler goes in, goes to climb up the ladder. One comes in. They're all on the outside. One comes in, takes them down. They scrap a bit. This one gets the better of that one, drops out like domino. This guy then takes the place. And it's a cycle. And it's basically like that. Occasionally you'll get multiple of them in the ring where they will work around the ladders and stuff, but it's too often like that. And it's just really formulaic, really staid, really slow, really, I don't know, just inert. So much inertia to the matches. So I do not understand why this PLE is so revered. I cannot say I've watched a great Money in the Bank match in a number of years. As I said, as a fan, I think we all love the concept because it can happen at any time, and it's led to some great moments. And both passions were great moments. We'll get to that, but I could see the Booker's perspective why he wouldn't like it. Triple H apparently doesn't like it. Maybe one day they will just bin the whole PLE. Then I'm not sure I could say I miss it. I will miss it. Um, yeah, just not great. Night of Champions came after that, which was the Saudi show, and It's something I was already aware of. WWE's been going there for years now. They've long since sold out to the Saudis. I'll touch upon this news story now, which I think came around SummerSlam time, so it's kind of close to that. Maybe it was Night of Champions, I don't know. But they announced that uh, WrestleMania in 2027 is going to be in Saudi Arabia. Now, as a British wrestling fan who did watch the product for years, I did watch for 20 years, so I can't exactly sit here and go too mad because I was very much an armchair fan for all that time. Um, but man, for the fans that have been there like the whole time and watched it week in, week out, no one outside of America and Canada, no one country has come even close to helping and supporting and being a loyal fan base to that company as much as UK. In terms of the entire wrestling as a pastime, an industry, or a sport, whatever you want to call it, a profession, the UK is probably the most influential country behind the Big Four. There's a gap of this Big Four, make no mistake. The Big Four being USA, Mexico, Japan, Canada. They're the four kind of stalwarts, the four pillars of wrestling. There are other countries that have big scenes, like Germany. Australia's is coming through, you've seen like of Rhea Ripley, Tony Storm, Zarya come through from Australia. But yeah, the Iconics, number one. But UK has a rich history in wrestling, its own style, all the indie scene and stuff like that. What is Saudi? Saudis are doing this with a lot of sports. I'm not going to go into too much a wider rant outside of wrestling, but it's clearly sport washing. They're doing it with box. They're doing it with F1. They're doing it with golf. Trying to get their own tournaments and stuff. They're even taking football now. Middle East in general. Well, FIFA World Cup went to Qatar in 2022. It's going to Saudi in 2034, I think. Not even talking about the human rights records here and just how backwards a place it's improving, but it was backwards for so long. Still is. Um, it's an arrestable offence to drink in public. It's illegal to be homosexual. It's illegal for women to bare skin over there. And you're hosting a fucking wrestling event there? Are you serious? Do you know what I mean? Like, it's all about the dollar, clearly. I think everyone and their mother, and John Cena probably was annoyed at this because he looks like a schmuck now. Because a few years ago, I know, at Clash in the Castle, he come out to the UK crowd and he said, "Hey, UK, do you want a wrestling mania? You know, make your voice heard, cheer now, chant if you want a WrestleMania." The crowd popped huge because they always do in Europe. This is one thing I'll say as well that's more noticeable by the day. I mean, it already started to drop off when the product went a bit more family orientated. Back when I was watching it, like I said, I grew up in the Attitude Era. Man, but the crowd's hot. US crowd showed they can do it. They still can. There's still the occasional show where the crowds really fire. Um, the one at Evolution, for example, in Atlanta, Georgia. It's an old school classic wrestling crowd. Old WCW town, but still, they were a great crowd. Whenever they're in Boston or Chicago, they're famously great crowd. It's kind of the equivalent of like, imagine like your northern working class cities in England always tend to do better crowds in football. Your Liverpools, your Newcastles, they're really passionate. That's why I imagine Boston, Chicago are. But yeah, they're always great crowds. However, so often the crowds are utter dog shit, just dead, completely dead in these random fucking Hickville towns in America. And I think it's saturation for one thing. They have three fucking shows. Granted, NXT doesn't go around that much, but these people are used to getting one or two shows a year. When it comes to Europe, it's a lot less commonplace. It's a lot more novel. And then they've took it to Australia. all of the best crowds this year were abroad. Paris, amazing crowd. They had a couple of shows there. We'll get to Clash in Paris eventually. That was a decent PLE actually. Uh, Australia, Crown Jewel was a very good PLE. I'll get to that eventually. That was a great crowd. I knew they would be. They went to Belgium this year as well. I know they've been to Italy in recent years. There's rumour they may be taking a PLE to Italy next year. Although then heard afterwards they're doing Backlash in Puerto Rico again. Did a banger crowd again a couple of years ago. Um, I think they might be doing both. I think they might be doing a PLE in Puerto Rico, start of May. That'll be the post Mania Backlash. And then I think they're doing another one in Italy, or maybe it's an SN and Emmy. They'll do it, something. Uh, so yeah, I'm sure if they did, I'm sure if they're based in Europe, they went to America for like a month in spring and a month in autumn, their crowds would be banging. But I feel like Europe's would be banging every week if they were there all year round, and they're just not in America. Well, Saudis have the same problem, man. The Saudi crowds are fucking dead. They're just shit. They don't really cheer for women's wrestling. I dread this Rumble coming up. I'm going to be a filthy hypocrite, of course. I'm going to criticize the Saudi blood money that goes into this. The lack of wrestling prestige the company has. It has no fucking wrestling prestige whatsoever. What the fuck? How many indie companies are in Saudi compared to someone like the UK, who should have got PLE at a Mania before it? Even France should have, after their efforts the last few years. The PLE in Lyon, the PLE in Paris. Australia were great. The Crown Jewel. Aussie crowds are going to be up for it. It baffles me. Mexico, they'll never do one there because it's AAA territory. I would have sooner they'd gone back to Canada than give it to Salvador. Yeah. One thing I will say they were in up for was the Punk versus Cena match in Saudi. I love the build up to this. The match itself was kind of ruined by the Vision's interruption, but what did he expect? That's the problem with a lot of John Cena's matches this year was because he's running it back with classic feuds. A lot of the guys he's in with are of similar age to him. It wasn't a bad match. It wasn't an amazing match. It was fun. That's what it was. Um, it's not to say if you put him in with a guy similar age to him, they can't still deliver a banger. His best match of the year was with AJ Styles. Um, yeah, the Punk match just never quite got going enough, I think. And the Vision's interference uh, felt a little too soon for me, but it happened. Oh, in the build up to this, they did the Queen of the Ring tour. Jade Cargill won it over. No, this was the final. That was right. Asuka returned. It was great to see Asuka back. Fucking legend, man. This woman's 44 years old. It's insane. She still goes like a mad cunt. She's still amazing in ring. And just a joy to watch. I put off talking about Jade before, but unfortunately I'm forced into doing so. Very briefly, we'll do the crux of the Jade talk when she becomes champion. But she wins this match in what could only be described as one of the stinkers of the year. You cannot get a good match out of Asuka. Who can you get a good match out of? It was awful, man. But the reason why I want to talk about this more is the crowd reaction. The crowd booed her and stuff. And I don't know if it's like a racist thing from the Saudi crowd as well, but or they just hate women's wrestling. I don't know. They love white blondes. They love Liv, apparently. Which makes me think Liv will probably win the Rumble coming up. She's definitely a big contender to win the 2026 Rumble. Or I don't know who else fits the bill there. Alexa or Tiffany or Blake Monroe even. Maybe she'll win it. Any white blonde, they'll probably just shove there because the crowd seems to like them. But for whatever reason, they were not into this match. Rhea versus Raquel was also on that night and didn't really get much crowd reaction. But I think this is one of the underrated matches of the year. And it was around this time that really began to notice Raquel. I think she's another one I want to praise for improvement in 2025. Um, it was around this time that, or around the start of the year, actually, I think. Was she on a podcast or something with Kevin Nash, with Big Daddy Cool? And he gave me some advice on, when you're big, that much bigger than the rest of the women, don't be afraid to use that size. We're big. She really took that advice and ran with it. I think she had a great summer. She's kind of tapered off a little in the last month or two, just as the giving her due deserts for what she did in the summer. They kind of given her a title run with Vaquer. There's too much Nikki Bella involvement that's ruining that right now. She's not quite getting the reactions, and just no one gives a shit. It's unfortunate to see, but we'll get to that as well. We'll criticize that when the time comes because I think Stephanie Vaquer's whole run hair stocks falling right now, which is kind of wild. But yeah, this match was great. So that wrapped that up, and then July then we had Evolution a few weeks later. Now I won't go too much into the Evolution review. I will leave the link. I don't know what channel this is being uploaded to still. Whether I'm making a new one, uploaded to my casual one that's been around for a decade. I've only ever done one FIFA video for, I think. Or I'll upload it to my gaming channel. I don't know. Either way, I'll link the video. This was the PLE of the year. It was just banger after banger after banger, honestly. Well, I'll say there were two major bangers. One to open the match, one to close the match. Again, for more in-depth review, see that video. And this is still 2025 review. I'm still gonna kind of just take over for the big stories of PLE. It's not match by match, too much. But the opening triple Muppet, Lyra, Becky, Bailey was fantastic. The Rhea Io main event was fantastic. I really enjoyed the Fatal 4-Way tag match between Kabuki Warriors, Judgment Day, Alexa and Charlotte, and Zaruka. I love the fact that they had the champions defending against a team from Raw, a team from SmackDown, a team from NXT. They should do shit like that more often. I feel like they should do that every year. It's 5 series, even something like that would be really cool. Yeah, well, so that Blake came into the company around that time in July. That's a great acquisition. Blake Monroe versus Brian May versus Tony Storm, I think is the greatest women's feud in history. Genuinely. I think it's that book. So I have high hopes for her in this company. She was involved with Jacy Jane, who won the NXT Championship around that year. I don't know if I'm gonna have time to talk about NXT much, which is a damn shame because there's so much to love about NXT. But Julia had a great run with Vaquer. They got promoted, so did Roxanne. JC unexpectedly won the championship. But then Shawn Michaels, who I think has been a really good booker on the whole. He's had moments where I'm like, what's he doing? But in general, he's been good. She won the championship and did a great run with it before losing to Tate Paxley, who I took involved as well, who then she then promptly won it back. It was nice to see them showcased on the show. Tiffany Stratton took on Trish Stratus in a very impromptu match. What they got to say about this PLA? And then I'll move on from it because, as I said, the more in-depth review is out there. And this, I'm glad I got to this because it's something I probably should have talked about from the off. Here and there in this annual review, I've talked about areas I think they really lack, notably in right now compared to when I used to watch it. And there's two. This show actually didn't suffer from this. It was a 7-match card, I think, which is perfect. Why not do that? You have 3.5 hours. Do it more. There isn't no fucking. I hate it so much how often they do like a 4-match card. Albeit, I understand it more if it's in the Rumble. You have women's Rumble match and men's Rumble match for like an hour each. Fair enough. That's fine. Same with War Games. I mean, even then, you could maybe fit a fifth match on. It was the same with Chamber, the four matches. Same with Money in the Bank, four matches. But so often they do four match cards just done stuff like Backlash or stuff like Crown Jewel or Night of Champions, where there's no matches that are a couple of matches that are going to go like have to go like 40, 50 minutes each. Do you know what I mean? Like, why? Why are there not more matches? And that is because they are saturated with ads. I talked about ads in terms of Slim Jim shit. Just the sheer amount of commercials week to week, show to show. Not even just PLEs, man. It's fucking ridiculous. You'll wait for ages. They'll do a whole last commercial. They do a couple of backstage segments and then the intros. Everyone takes so long in fucking entrances these days. Often entrances take as long as the matches. All the wrestlers come out, they do entrances, they'll start wrestling within 20 seconds, commercial. What the fuck? Disappears for 2, 3 minutes. They come back, alright, well, there's this match. Wrestle for 5 minutes, commercial. 2 commercial breaks in a match. It happens so often, man. Pisses me off. It's hard to get invested when you're just not seeing the fucking product. TKO just care about the money, quite clearly. They're all about the money, the shills for it. But I also feel like this is in conjunction with my second observation on the problem of PLEs nowadays, and just the product in general. There's not much build up to these PLEs because there's so many of them. It's every 3 weeks. It felt like there was another show. Every 3, 4 weeks. It used to be every 4 or 5 weeks, 5, 6 weeks, whatever. There wouldn't be Saturday night main event shows as well. I mean, it's just the saturation is so insane, man. There are 5 shows, weekly shows. If you comp main event as well, there's main event, Evolve, NXT, SmackDown, Raw. That's the hierarchy going from down to. It's ridiculous. It's like, oh man, and I think that plagued this show. I always feel like Evolution, they were set up to fail. I said that at the time. Trish even come out after the show and said she was surprised at how little build up they were given. She was kind of given the call to do the show, and she was like, okay, well, when is it? Oh, in a few weeks. Oh, well, I haven't really got time to tell a story. Oh, it's okay. You'll have one promo the night before the show for like 5 minutes. No, that's fine. I don't think TKO, because they're UFC fans, and that's how they made their money. I always feel like they want to market this wrestling product similar to that. Sometimes they also have a serious tendency to protect the champions. Cody Rhodes this year wrestled about 10 times, I think, on Raw and SmackDown. That's absurd. The guy was absent for about a month, and that was it. He was around most of the year. It's not like he's Roman Reigns. If you said, oh, Roman Reigns only wrestled 10 times in Raw SmackDown, oh, well, fair enough. He's part time. He'll disappear for months. No, this guy's there week in, week out. He's always there. He does his promo. He just never fucking wrestles. And it's not his fault. They just don't book him. They protect him. Because they don't know what the fuck they're doing. And I feel like they want to make it like this and UFC kind of or boxing thing where it's a special attraction because your champion only wrestles once a month. But it can work for someone like Cody. He's so over and he's a made man. It doesn't impact him quite as much. But when it's someone like Tiffany Stratton, or to be fair, Tiffy did wrestle a lot of times. Bad example, but Io Sky, that was a bad one. Of Stephanie Vicaire, Jake Cargill. Jake Cargill won the championship from Tiffany Stratton on the 1st of November. Or was it the 2nd of November? Either way, I am recording this on the 29th of December. She's not defended the title once. What the fuck? Io Sky won the championship. She retained at Mania in that banger triple threat with Rhea Ripley and Bianca Belair. She did not defend the title once until Evolution, which was in July. From April to July, man. Like, it's not just the women they do this for, it's the men as well. They just don't know how to book champions. They don't know how to build up to PLEs. There's just it's every how do you have a PLE every 3 weeks? But then there's an hour worth of adverts, 2 hours of actual product, maybe 50 minutes of that is wrestling, and you're still not having your champions defend for months. It's fucking absurd. So it's not even necessarily like they're just special attractions sometimes. They just don't know what to do with them. Clearly, and then we are getting to the second half of the year now where I'm going to start having a lot more complaints because I started thinking about this shit more because I was up to speed with the product and starting to become wise and starting to get tired with this shit. I, at the time of my evolution review, I really praised the decision to, oh well, I praised the cash in itself. Oh, no. The other banger, Rio Neo, great match. I'm not going to go too much into detail, but it's one of the matches of the year, if not the match of the year, I'd say, it's right up there. Um, Naomi comes in and cashes in, and I said at the time, yeah, I get it's kind of a cheap moment. It's for the moment to win against convention. She's on SmackDown. She cashed in the Raw Women's match when a lot of people were expecting her at the time to hold off to SummerSlam. I think people were expecting Jade would beat Tiffany at SummerSlam after she won the Queen of the Ring against Asuka in Saudi. That was what it was for. And then Naomi would resume that feud with Jade, get one over an old rival, and win the championship. That's not what happened. She won it in Evolution. I praised the actual moment of it. It was a great moment. The crowd were really surprised, really shocked, but really got behind it. They were cheering, and Naomi deserved it after the run she had. It's a shame I can't do justice to it. I almost do wish I'd reviewed this year week by week. There was so much to talk about. Um, but yeah, like I just have to sum up heel turn as it was great. But yeah, it was. This moment though, aged really badly. I'm not even talking about the fact that, it's unforeseen circumstances. Naomi had to relinquish the title. She got pregnant. But this killed this this killed the SmackDown Women's division in one fell swoop, those couple of weeks. Because I'm talking about their whole Evolution show here. Killed it. Bianca got injured in a triple threat match. She injured her finger. And I don't think anyone expected it to rule her out for the whole year. It kept being a case of, oh, she'll have a scan next month and we'll see what happens. Oh, they think it might be a few months. Oh, but no, a couple of months later, it's not really healing. It might be like next. It kept getting pushed back and back and back. And there's still no actual set date when she's come back. People just keep thinking, keep pushing it back and keep saying, oh, well, the Rumble. Hopefully she's back for the Rumble. I hope she is. She's too good to be missing for this long. We need her back. But they knew Bianca was out. Let's put it this way. Tiffany was the champion start of the year. She had a couple of good defenses under her belt in terms of the names. Bailey, she defended against. She defended against Nia, who she'd won it off. Champion gets a rematch, that's fine. Defended against Charlotte in a feud that did largely underwhelm and took headlines for their very personal shoot promos against each other that night in Chicago. But at the end of the day, she's still got a defense against Charlotte Flair at Mania under her belt. That's big. That's a big show of faith from the company in her. But then what? Coming out of Mania, you had the four biggest stars in the division for sure, where Charlotte, Alexa, Naomi, and Bianca. They're your former world champions. They're the kind of names Tiffany needs to be up against to really sell fans on the fact that she's at that level. And really promote her as like the future face of the division. Well, in one fell swoop, we're in space of a couple of months. How many of those four were gone? 1, 2, 3, 4. All of them out of the solo division. This is why having Naomi do that. I feel like this is a real microcosm of the problem with the booking this year. The lack of thought, the lack of long term booking, the lack of vision in just what the fuck are you doing? Did you not stop to think for a second? What is our champion going to be left with? What is our solo division going to look like if you've taken Naomi, who is the could be the woman of the year to that point, and moved her to Raw? Just didn't fucking need her. Oh, we'll get to the discrepancy in the division. I think now is the time to go on the full rant. I'll just include everything this year about this, I guess. Fuck it. Women's roster, like I said, I think it's actually I prefer it. I never thought I'd say that. I grew up in an era where they were really, I've never been sexist or anything like that. I've always been willing to give them a chance. And I never looked at them as a joke. But I wasn't used to seeing women being given as long as they were, or be as good as they were, be allowed to do what they're allowed to do, and have equal matches and all these cards. They have their Rumble match, they have their Chamber match, and all this shit. It's shock to the culture for me. So I was extra pleased when I saw that they're better than the men. I think overall the women have hard carried the WWE this year. However, within the women's roster, there's a definite divide. Raw's roster is so much better. It's not even close, man. SmackDown's roster is just not up to scratch. It definitely needs call-ups. NXT's is great, I think. I think there are call-ups that should come up. We'll discuss that more at the end of the video of what should happen for 2026. Um, but they paired Charlotte and Alexa together, who I said they're the two biggest stars in SmackDown, full stop. Still, they are the NXT 2013 OGs. They were part of the Women's Revolution, especially Charlotte was part of the Horsewomen, but Alexa played a part as well. They are just household names. Naomi and Bianca, maybe a tier below, but still huge names, former world champions like Charlotte and Alexa. But they took Naomi to Raw, and at the same time, they must have known. Charlotte got booed. Nuclear Heat coming out of Mania. It was hard to watch, honestly. She'd appear on the shows every week, and just get booed up the building. Even back then, they were teasing her as Jade, which they're doing right now, in a desperate attempt to salvage Jade's championship run, which is even worse than Tiffany's. But it's the fault of the division. Charlotte got booed to shit. Alexa got cheered to fuck. She always will do. She's perennially over. I think Charlotte and Alexa are probably Alexa and Rhea, sorry, are probably the two most popular women in the entirety of women's wrestling in terms of sheer fan support and pop they get from the live cards. They were two of the names along with AJ Lee, who I'll get to. Very happy to cover that when the time comes. Um, those three were the only women in the top 10 matchups of the company this year, for example. Alexa and Rhea are pretty much always going to be there. AJ's, I think, more was she returned after a decade, but still great to see. But yeah, the turning point for Charlotte, and this is one of my favorite stories. I'm bound to be inclined to like this because Alexa's my favorite women's wrestler of all time, not just now. Trish is close between her and yeah. I'd still say Alexa, but Trish is definitely close. Um, yeah, I think that pair up has been one of the stories, goodwill stories of 2025, and it's not just to credit Alexa with that. It was pretty much overnight. Second, I think the build up to this was good as well. They were kind of teasing, oh, will they feud? They were crossing paths a lot, and they were crossing wires, and Alexa was getting one over on Charlotte a bit. She won the Queen of the Ring match, uh, Fatal 4-Way that they were both involved in. It was kind of, will they, won't they team up? In the end, they team up as an experiment for Evolution. And it was overnight. Charlotte went from nuclear heat to getting cheered because she was with Alexa. The fans love. How do you save someone from heel heat? Put them with the biggest face in the division. or at least on the roster. Rhea's could argue that. And that's what happened. But credit to her for turning this round. WWE clearly saw that though, and I like what they did on I predicted this at Evolution actually on my review. I said I knew Roxanne and Raquel would defend the championship because Liv had just got injured, and it would make Roxanne look weak if she comes in and immediately they lose the championship. So what they did is they spammed them a few defenses. They had three defenses in like 3 weeks, basically. I think they defended against Kabuki Warriors. They defended against someone else. Don't remember. It was Bailey and Lyra, I think. And then they defended in that Evolution match. I think the Kabuki Warriors match was the night after the Evolution one, actually. But I made that prediction at the time. Charlotte and Alexa will go on to win the title at SummerSlam. And that's what they did. They won the titles. They were two big names to not take advantage of. And you know what WWE's like with Charlotte Flair? Oh shit, she's getting cheered now. Fuck it. They could win the championships. But the reason why I talk about these two so much is it's kind of changed the direction, that decision of the entire women's landscape in WWE since SummerSlam, which is crazy to say, but I think it's a measure of, you know, how big stars they are, I guess, and how gutted the solo division became once they started pulling these teams out of the solo division. Same thing happened on Raw. You know, there's a lot of backlash in a lot of ways. That Rhea was in every. This is a fact. This is crazy fact. Rhea was in every women's world championship match that year, I think, and she wasn't even champion for like 4 of the 7 months, 5 to 7 months, something before then. She won it off Liv, and then she lost it to Io, and then she's still in the Mania match, and then she's still in the Evolution match, and so on. And then she's still in the SummerSlam match. Yeah, it just baffles me, this decision with Naomi to the fact that they knew they were taking Charlotte and Alexa out of the solo division to focus on the tag team titles, and they didn't look ahead to what was left. And the same thing's happening before right now. Charlotte and Alexa had a good run with the tag championships. They defended them 5 times against a variety of teams from NXT, from Raw, and SmackDown. And they really, as a company now, across both Raw and SmackDown, have put a serious focus on these titles. But it is much to the detriment of not just the women's solo division, but even the champions. They can't even muster matches, 2 matches. One each for the world champ and the mid-card belt. In fact, I should say that about the IC Championship. I mean, Maxine Dupree won it recently over Becky Lynch. I've got to say this. Becky Lynch, man. What a legend. What a great. One of the all-time greats, for sure. It's not just me saying it. Sports Illustrated. I love when she does that shit. Obviously, she was one of them names that's so big that even though I didn't watch the product week on week, or even month on month, or even year on year at times over the last 2 decades, I would go long periods not seeing anything. I'd maybe watch the occasional PLE, but I knew Becky Lynch was, and I'd seen matches of her, and I knew she was great. But I gained a newfound appreciation just seeing her do this shit week in, week out. Her run this year was one of the best as well. The difference in quality between the IC Championship treatment and the US title treatment is fucking insane. Again, it's a good measure of the gulf in quality between Raw and SmackDown's men's and women's division. There's just some serious holes there, man. The US Championship, oh my God, it's been bad. Julia, don't even get me on Julia, how badly mismanaged she's been. They've ruined her. She has to move to Raw at this point. It's fucking insane. She comes out to cricket. She was so good in NXT and just. How the fuck do you fuck up Julia? How do you do it? It's insane. But I want to give flowers to Becky for that. And Maxine even getting air over in the 3 matches to the point where crowd chanting for Maxine. He's still a bit green, but all the best to her. Like, fans got behind her. She has shown improvements. Happy she won. They are running it back for that time championship tomorrow, I think, actually. So I can't exactly shit on the state of the IC championship right now. She's got Becky there. Um, but yeah, I'd say the second half of the year really has been defined by the lack of opponents for a lot of these champions. Tiffany, I think, is world champion material. Do I think she's as good as WWE wants you to think? Do I think she's as good as the 10-month reign that she was given? No. She went unbeaten the whole year as well until her match against Stephanie Bouquet in Australia in October. I don't think she's that level, but I can buy her as world champ. I think she's good enough to be world champ. Personally, I would have given her like a 3-4 month reign. I mean, the second Alexa was back in May. I would have made her champ. I'd dethrone Tiffany. She's someone who proved she can be a face of a division. But they obviously went off in a different direction. And then after a month or two, I was thinking, oh, well, how about Naomi? I'll take her as champ. Have Jade beat Tiffy, then have Jade get it taken away by Naomi, and then you can feud them and continue that feud until Bianca gets back. But they just removed all these options. Even when she eventually won it made no real sense that she was basically stuck after taking on Charlotte in April. I don't think she defended against anyone other than Nia or Jade until she lost it in November. That's 7 months. 7 month vortex you're stuck in of just Nia and Jade. Neither of which are good. Nia is just there. I don't mind her being on a show. If I was in charge, I probably still would have her on because she's a big girl. She's an attraction. I think she's kind of being booked about right now. You know, she's kind of the lead of the team with her and Lash Legend. They're trying to get Lash over and stuff. But still, the fans aren't really that vested in her. She's not over. She's never really been over. She's always kind of been booed, whether she's posited as a face or a heel. They don't really gravitate towards her. And the problem with Jade, and we finally get to the Jade rant, is there's no improvement there. She's been around for 5 years since AEW. I even said this, I think, during my Evolution video review. I said, oh, yeah, I'm having second thoughts about Jade because I've seen no progression since Chamber. And it's still the same. Still the same. Just nothing. She can't cut promo. She can't wrestle more than 8 minutes. She's not defended the title once since the 1st of November. I do feel sorry for her in the sense that, because the only two women on SmackDown who are over, Charlotte and Alexa, and Charlotte's only over because she's with Alexa originally, although I don't think she's done great work since. Then, herself, and you could tell she's having a lot of fun, and she wrestles with a smile now. It's infectious. You see Ashley Flair, the character, getting over. So I think if they were to split, Charlotte could still get cheered. But they're the only two women who are over. She's left with Meech and B-Fab, who come out to crickets. You have Candice LeRae and Alba Fire, who are great wrestlers, and have shown that over the years. In NXT UK, Alba Fire was 600-day champ. Candice LeRae was wrestling men, as was Chelsea Green. I mean, I love Chelsea, but she's just a comedy act. All three of them, they booking at times has just been shambolic. Candice hasn't wrestled in months and months. They wheeled her out when it was a case of, oh, we're having all these qualifying matches for Elimination Chamber, and for Money in the Bank, and for Queen of the Ring. They had all these tournaments back to back to back, pretty much, either side of Mania. And then just fucking disappeared. Shelved. Why does she never wrestle? Why not try and build up your division? You have got some talent there. Nikki Cross is in Wyatt 6. I mentioned them before. They're often disappearing. Why has she not wrestled once? Been back since May. 6 months. 7 fucking months. I'm looking at this shit. She's a former world champion. Why is she not arrested? What do they do? There's no reason not to arrest her. I get she's like this ghoulish figure, but it would piss me off less if they hadn't teased it at times as well. And we headed into SummerSlam in my progression throughout the year. It was after SummerSlam, just around Clash in Paris, end of August time. They were teasing this. They were teasing, oh well, we're going to O'Hare against Julia or O'Hare against Chelsea Green. Never, still no. Makes no sense, man. I mean, I'm ranting too much about the women's division here, but it's one of the big problems with SmackDown. They need to promote a lot of women. I said I'll cover this at the end of the video, but fuck, let's just do it now. So I want to run closer to. I don't want to run over 3 hours. That's way too long. Even if it is like podcast length, that's too long. And we're only in August, so promote some NXT women. Jordan Grace should be there. What's she doing? She's one Shawn Michaels hasn't booked well in NXT, I don't think. And it's just hitting her. She's just drifted. She's just there. I don't know whether Lola's ready or not, but I would give her a chance at least. And Damien Priest there, and he needs all the help he can get right now, to be quite honest. And it would have made more sense bringing her up while he's still 3-4 months down the line, feuding with Aleister Black. It's helping neither of them, and I like both of them. I like all 4 of them here, if you include Lola and Zelina. You could even promote Fatal Influence. I guess JC's champion again now, or why not take them Paxley? Sol and Zarya should be on SmackDown by now. I don't know what the weight is. It's the same with the men's division in SmackDown. I said Cena carried the shit out of it. Let's just summarise the year more in general now. I'm going to even run through the remaining PLEs. I will TLDR. SummerSlam was a mixed bag. I think 3 matches were great. 3 matches were dog shit on each night. I enjoyed the same on each night, just in different orders. I enjoyed both main events. I thought Seth's cash-in was a great moment. It was really well done. After a fantastic match between Gunther, who I love. I haven't had a chance to praise Gunther in an hour. He's great. He's just ideal. We'll praise him more when it gets to Cena retirement things. I think that's his moment of the year. Yeah, he dethroned Jey Uso. But he saved us from the Jey Uso reign. Rikishi flipped out on social media like a fucking monk. I mean, it's his dad, but still, he just looked like an idiot. Um, you know, Jey Uso got a WrestleMania moment that he scarcely deserved. But fucking hell, he's never been a world champ. Let him win at Mania, win the Rumble. Are you complaining about Rikishi, dickhead? I loved Rikishi growing up. I loved fucking what's his name, Road Dogg growing up because they were my era, Attitude Era. Loved the New Age Outlaws. I like Too Cool. You know, they did the dance and New Age Outlaws go, you didn't know and all that shit. Well, there's something you didn't know, Road Dogg. You know how the fuck's book a show? You know what you do, man. SmackDown is a shit show. It is an absolute shit show. Progressively throughout the year, it's just gotten worse and worse because Cena carried it for spring. The heel turn just wasn't working out though. But he's such a big name and he's so engaging in his promos. When he would come out, you were glued. There was a reason to watch. What was left off though? Tag teams. They carried throughout the summer in terms of pure match quality. And I was enjoying on a personal level. I was enjoying the women's story kind of more than I think that was the last time it was good because Julia had just come up from NXT. And Charlotte and Axel kind of teasing up that teasing, are they going to team up or feud still? And also, as I said, the qualifying matches around then, so we've seen Candice involved. So we're seeing different faces. But then, things just, I don't know, it's weird. It's strange for a show to, consistently take away its best
thing that carried it. Thankfully, SmackDown at least did often find instant fixes. Once the SmackDown men's tag division kind of died out, um, then came the US Open Challenge. Let's we'll go on to SummerSlam a little more because just before SummerSlam, John Cena finally had enough and putting an end to the heel run. It came out of the blue, man. It really came out of nowhere. Just the night before SummerSlam, basically. Oh well, 2 nights before their match, same night two, main event. He come out and was just like, yeah, kind of done. I'm not really feeling this. I'm facing, and everyone's like, "Hooray!" And Cody's a bit like, "Guy having me on? Like, is he serious? Can I trust him?" But man, like, if ever there was an example of or a proof that John Cena was never really interested in doing the heel run, I think if it had been a decade ago, any other year than this year, basically, where he knew he only had 36 dates, any other year, I think he would have been invested. I'm not saying he didn't give us all, but it became clear instantly his first match back after turning face. He had his first great match of the year, and he would go on to have a few more after that. That match against Cody, man, it was so good. And you compare it to the Mania match, which was a slog to even watch, let alone fucking for the paying crowd who were there. I'm sat there watching at home, like, oh, good God. Um, this SummerSlam match saved that completely. Saved both of them. And it was a redemption story. Went on for 30, 40 minutes. Just amazing, man. Like, it was cheesy, the bit where he grabs him on the fucking shoulders and the FU thing, and he comes up through the ramp with his fucking grin. You see his little bald spot coming up first, and then his grin. But yeah, it was infectious fun. Obviously there was a fucking I complained about it before. There was a ridiculous amount of FUs. He gave about 9 FUs to Cody, kept kicking out of them. Attitude adjustments, whatever the fuck they're called nowadays. But yeah, it was fun match. Oh, I mean, I almost forgot. What could I forget? One of the stories of the year. Brock Lesnar came back. I'm not going too much into this. I know the story since then. Um, I'm forever thankful for what Vince did in terms of making wrestling as international as it was, and for a lot of the product that did come out. Of course, for many years, though, a lot of things he did, even in terms of to the product and how he impacted the industry, was a negative for the industry. It became a monopoly. W so big, it just consumed everything around it, including WCW and ECW. We'll eventually do this to AEW as well, probably. Um, you know, whoever said competition is healthy, WWE do not want it. Um, but yeah, in terms of Vince himself, I mean, we always knew he was a bit of a creep, but even I was shocked at the extent of some of the stuff that came out. And I watched this man in the Attitude Era and the Ruthless Aggression Era, but some of the shit he'd do. I mean, he put this on national television, on camera. He had Trish on her knees, barking like a dog at his feet. He'd have these buxom blondes with the fake tits fall over him, lying on top of him, making out with him. He did it with Tori. He did it with Stacy. He did it with Trish. He did it with Sable. He did it with Sable, who 4 years before had sued the company for sexual harassment. I guarantee he did that as a statement of a fuck you, as almost as a punishment for her daring to do that. Daring to have jurisdiction over her body. I don't know why I ever happened that case. I think they settled out of court. But the second she needed a job, but it was kind of almost like, oh, you've come crawling back, hey pal. Well, I'm going to do this. Yeah, it's just that was kind of how his mind operated. So it perhaps shouldn't be a surprise that this kind of story come up. Oh, well, fuck him for this. you know, if a lot of these allegations were true, and I can believe it because of his record, then fuck him for that and good riddance in the company. As far as Brock Lesnar goes, I don't know if I have an opinion on it. Innocence for proven guilty, I guess. Brock Lesnar, by all accounts from some text, was in agreement to meet up with a woman who'd been basically solicited for Brock to meet up with and engage in sexual relations with. Allegedly, Weber stopped him attending. Now, the fact is, Brock never arrived at any rendezvous, never had any rendezvous with this woman. Cool stuff. Leave that for the courts to decide, but of course, caused a huge furore when he came back. I mean, not that you know, the New Jersey crowd that night in SummerSlam, they pop big when lads have come out. As far as the wrestling goes, my God. I mean, I was kind of excited to see it, I guess, because Brock, like Cena, like Ray, like Randy, was one of them that I was old enough to have remembered back when I was watching it weekly. So I was naturally predisposed to being a bit more invested in seeing them. And because you know that they've only got a few years left. But the whole build up for them was for barely after Clash in Paris, which is WrestlePalooza. And my God, was that match underwhelming. I mean, we all knew what it was going to be like. It was going to just be a, you know, basic match of maybe just finishes. But you squashed it like 9, 10 minutes. It was kind of meh. Yeah. And since then, Brock has kind of largely been what I expected him to be, just a special attraction. They'll wheel him out for each major appeal, and that's about it. They had him on for Wrestlepalooza, which they saw as a major thing because it was their debut show when they moved to ESPN. It also got a shit review by the reviewer, like ESPN themselves, which I found funny. So it's a bit of a bruise to WWE's ego. They very much like their own narrative driven stuff. Triple H robbed this year after the serious criticism he received, I think, of the Saudi decision and just some other things. And the Brock decision, I think that was the main one. They began to do their own post shows where they won't field questions. They don't do any press conferences anymore. Um, they like to have their own managed content of, oh, well, Triple H, wasn't this show so great? Why don't you talk about how good SummerSlam was? Oh, we sold great crowds and all this shit. You know, very much company managed PR. That is what the TKO model, though. It's how they operate. He likes to think of himself as like the Dana White of the show as well. He loves it, coming out and introducing himself. Oh, are you ready? Like he used to do in his fucking DX shit. But yeah. After SummerSlam, I thought was a decent show. It was a mixed bag, as I said. Some of the matches were dog shit. I thought the Fatu solo match was just awful. And like I said, Fatu really lost a lot of momentum as the year went on. He kind of disappeared after that for a couple of months. Came back. Super kick Drew. Poor Drew. My God. He had a bunch of it. He super kicked Drew. Next week, he got kayfabe in, and he got a legit mouth injury, I think. He has a dental surgery or some dental problem. And he got written out of the show by being taken out. So Drew never got his revenge or anything like that as well. Another downer for Drew this year. Um, but yeah, and he's still been out. So Fatu, just his stock kind of went down. But I still think a lot of people are on board with him and really invested in him, and he's got a big future. That match stood out as a real stinker in SummerSlam. Becky and Lyra had the worst match of their trilogy of. I think they had a trilogy of solo matches and that banger triple threat with Bailey, who always gets a good match of anyone. At Evolution. This was the only one I didn't like. It was an overlooked mess. Yeah, just not great. I think the rest of the show was pretty good. Clash in Paris was decent. Um, I mean, the Nikki Bella match was Becky had a bad August. She had a very bad match with Nikki Bella as well, which the crowd just didn't really give a fuck about. But yeah, she returned in the lead up to Evolution. I don't like hating on people. I was never really a fan of Cabela's. I think they no hate on them personally, but they were just given ridiculous amounts of praise and recognition. Nikki Bella had a 300-day title run, for example. Even for the era, that was excessive. Now, when you bring this woman back 10 years later to a division that's advanced so much after the women's revolution, we had the horsewomen, all legends, all Hall of Famers who ruled the division for a while. You had Alexa, who was the first woman to outsell all the men. You had Becky, who also did that afterwards. You had Ronda Rousey, who came back, who was the first woman to be the most viewed woman on the YouTube channel week by week. The biggest viewed segments were Ronda Rousey. We had Asuka, who were on this monster unbeaten run. We got huge support and brought over a real like Japanese audience and Joshi style. There were so many moments of evolution for the women. And that's even before you get to the likes of then they just evolved as performers. Rhea and Bianca and Io, the NXT 3 from 2019, 2020. Look at the matches these women have had. And you just look how much it evolved. She's just dated. It's as simple as that. You know, not in a bad way. I mean, she looks great. It's fucking elf, man. I'd bang the hell. She's 41, I think. Still looks fucking great. Still looks like she's in her 20s. Um, the problem with bringing it back, I don't mind bringing it back if it's to a certain degree, a certain role. But they brought it back and really kind of played up to this. She's a Hall of Famer. She was a real inspiration. That Io Sky going on screen and saying to Nikki Bella, "You were my inspiration as a wrestler growing up." With this show, God, shut the fuck up, man. I know Io Sky even knew Nikki Bella was until about 20, until like this year, basically. Like, come on. She was wrestling Japan during the Bella era. The Divas era was a dark days for the women's roster. It wasn't great. Um, and now they brought her back and did this whole, a lot of women who are frankly way more talented than Nikki was. And it's not just Nikki, it's everyone of their era, really, except maybe AJ and Paige and Caitlyn and Anna Dainati. Everyone else just wasn't close to the level of any main event now. Um, and they tried to sell her off as a world championship contender recently in Stephanie Blackhair, which is, yeah, just unfortunate. But yeah, that match was a bad one. I think every other match in the card was good though. Cena and Logan Paul had the banger. It came out kind of out of nowhere, really. They, I think he was looking for someone to feud with, and Logan Paul just basically like nominated himself. He just came down and started shit talking because they had teamed up a bit in the spring, and John Cena was looking to ruin wrestling. His way of ruining wrestling was giving it, I'll get the YouTuber, the part timer on, the people who fans naturally hate and have heat with. So it kind of did make sense that they feuded, and they produced a really, really good match. Also, the Fatal 4-Way was pretty decent. Seth Rollins versus CM Punk versus LA Knight versus Jey Uso. There was another match on the card that night that was a banger, and it was Sheamus versus Rusev. That was a really good one. Yeah, Irish Donnybrook. That was probably the match of the night. Actually, I want to pay quick tribute to these guys because whenever they were on, they had bangers. Um, I mean, Sheamus particularly. Sheamus just always he'll have a bang of anyone. He's like he should be the gatekeeper guy. The same way that you do it with the Miz on SmackDown, where anyone who has to debut, they have to go through the Miz. We'll put him in a promo with the Miz. We'll put him in a program or a match with the Miz. If he can hang with him, the veteran, the kind of like mentor guy, then they're ready. Sheamus is start with Raw. Um, I mean, he literally is. They took him on an NXT tour a while ago, no doubt, to just get his thoughts on the roster or allow them to one-to-one with him and talk to him and allow him to review their matches, etc. So yeah, I want to pay tribute to him. I'd never really seen much of his career. Obviously, I know all about him. But he's not old enough like a Cena or a Ray or a Randy or a Brock where it saw him week in, week out. He's great. I also really like the Rusev Penta Dominic program they did around October, November. No, it's before then. Yeah, that was after SummerSlam, I think. I think he immediately went into that. So that was like August, September, October. They all did a promo, a lot of matches together for the IC Championship. But that was great. The Fatal 4-Way I mentioned there, it kind of was those four in the title picture for a long, long time. Not just the title picture, but the main event picture for a long, long time on Raw. And I said this was kind of the problem with Raw. And it really became apparent around August, September to me. Constantly, all fucking time. Different variations of it. Ron Breaker and Bronson Reed versus Jey Uso and LA Knight. Sub out LA Knight 1 week, put CM Punk in. Add LA Knight back in, add Seth Rollins back in. Put them all together. Oh, the week after, we'll do a bit of friction between LA Knight and Jey Uso. Still going and CM Punk. Still going for the same prize. So let's put them in a triple threat the next match. And what happened every week? Vision would clear them out, they beat them up, and so it really was eerie. As someone who watched Evolution week in, week out, the it had Triple H over it so much. If you'd have removed my knowledge of the last decade completely, well, I wasn't watching it and know things. If you remove my knowledge of it completely, show me some of these shows, the start and the finish segments of each show, and then said one wrestler from circa 2004 is the booker nowadays, and he's booking this shit. I'd have guessed Triple H right away. I didn't know because it just was that formula. They come out, they do the long promos. Seth Rollins mainly doing it, and Heyman, where they didn't really see much. Heyman was not really even being for as amazing promo as he is. He was just kind of like the background guy, like my name is Paul Heyman. This is Seth freaking Rollins. From future WrestleMania. He'd do his intros and then Seth would just take over. It just didn't hit for whatever reason. I love them all. I'm invested in all of them. I have a lot of hope for. I mean, Bron Breakker's definitely going to be huge. He's one of the future stars of the company. I like what they've done with Bronson Reed. I bought into him as the main event talent. I think he's got a lot going for him. Heyman, love him. He's a genius. And Seth Rollins, legend as well. It felt too same old every time that they would open the show, do their promo, or vice versa. Punk would come out, or Uso would come out, do the thing. Then they would interrupt. They would have words with them and stuff. And there's only so long you can feud with the same people. And this is something WWE's had a serious fucking problem with recently. I mentioned Priest and Black before. My God, these guys have been feuding since September. September. We're almost January. They still go. Cody and Drew been feuding since August, since SummerSlam. That's when he went to Phil Street Fighter, actually, I think. Yeah, that's right. Because He just disappeared after Mania. Because the night after SummerSlam, I think, Drew took out Cody, kicked his head through the fucking desk, and he disappeared for a few weeks selling that, and then he came back. But yeah, they basically feuded for months. And it was basically like 5, 6 months since fucking, I mean, LA Knight was feuding with Division since Money in the Bank because they fucked him out of that match. That's why even Twitch brands, which I think at this time was a good decision. He went from SmackDown to Raw. It's so fucking different at Raw, man. I mean, he's mixing with the top guys at least, but he's never gets wins. He's always in the early man. He gets so close, it's so far. Poor Elliot. I love him. I think he's great. Guy's been over for like 2.5, 3 years. When he's going to get stripes, he deserves a championship run. When we get to November, Saturday Night Main Event, we're getting close to that part of this review. I'm going to have a fucking rant about that, but yeah. It was basically 6 months of that. Jey Uso, once he lost the championship to Gunther, just June. Yeah, around July time onwards, he was pretty much feuding for the World Championship. So it went from Punk to Rollins at SummerSlam. So Jey Uso was feuding with them for a good 3, 4 months. And Punk's just been feuding with Rollins for what feels like fucking the whole year. Basically from the first show, where they main evented. Fuck, real main event? No, yeah, the main evented. The Netflix show. That's right, because they just went too long. They didn't give a fuck. Which I love. I love that they did that. I didn't actually watch that much, but yeah, I've heard about it. I don't really understand like why they're so afraid of shuffling people in and out, even if it's only for 1 week. A while ago, SmackDown did this. Randomly 1 week, they just put Cody up against Aleister Black, and they were beginning to have a match that really starting to get going. It was threatening to turn into a banger. Unfortunately, Priest comes out and fucks it up, interferes, and yeah, it just went out. They used to do this a lot. I'm not saying, I said this before, I'm not advocating for the car crash fucking circus merry-go-round that was the Attitude Era, the Vinny Rue time specifically, of switching belts and stuff like that. I'm not advocating for that. One thing they had right when they had the balance, I think, is say if you look at like the year 2000, WWF, which was one of the most successful years they ever had. Maybe the most successful year they ever had, honestly. It'd be hard to beat. Nowadays, they probably sell more tickets or make more money and get more attendances just because arenas are bigger and their scale is bigger. They have more of a stranglehold over wrestling as a whole and they charge more for tickets. But it does not mean the product's better. There's more eyes on it. Back in those days, man, you had like 6 million people tune in every fucking month. 2000 was excellent at shuffling main events a lot, shuffling stories. They did it a little more actually recently, WWE, which is great. If there's a feud, even if it's slightly lower on the card, that at a time does heat up enough or merits a main event, put it on. Put it. Why not? For month after month after month. And this is where I really started to get fucking pissed off with the product. And it's the closest I got to really like think, fuck this. Why am I still watching? I have my. But the problem is, you have your favorites then. You're invested in them. And it's like, oh, but I don't want to stop watching if I'm going to miss, like, Bron Breaker's crowning moment, for example, because I'm invested in this dude now. I want to see him succeed. I don't want to miss Obafemi's main roster debut. Could happen any fucking week. I would have missed Ilya Dragunov's return, who I fucking love. It's amazing, my Dragon. There's enough to miss that keeps you watching. But it really tested me, man, when I'm watching these fucking mix of Uso and Punk and Knights versus Division every fucking main event. Well, they mixed it up a while back. They had Alexa and Charlotte defend their titles against Bailey and Lyra. Banger. Great match. I would say one of the best matches of the year, but it was probably the best main event they'd had in months since the last. Well, it was the best. Yeah, since the last All Women's one, which was fucking Rhea and Asuka in like August or was it or September as well. Mixing it up is good. I criticized Priest and Black's feud that went on way too long. Um, but they were given a main event 2 nights before Crown Jewel while it's still in Australia, and it worked beautifully. It was a great match, really, really good. Got over. Zelina comes out. That's the night she officially teamed up with her IRL husband, Alistair Black. Shot a fireball of Priest. They should have had a blow off match after that, and they just ended it. And they just had whatever. They got multiple matches instead. So yeah, like that's what WWF did great in 2000. You would have even to keep the main event scenes. Maybe Edge and Christian would be having a program with the Dudley Boys, and Kurt Angle is having one with Triple H. So what they do is pair Triple H with the Dudley Boys versus Kurt Angle and Edge and Christian. So they were kind of like aligned. Maybe they'd throw in Shane McMahon versus Chris Benoit main event every now and again. Or just use random shit like that. They would test the waters. I feel like they'd give everyone a fair chance to maybe shine. Look at the Chris Jericho moments that year when they put him in with Triple H, had him win the title, but then take it off him because he didn't actually win. He got screwed out of it. But he was just given that chance at least to shine. And the crowd went berserk, and their reaction to him winning it was a major part in him then, in subsequent years, becoming more and more a main eventer. The opposite with Rikishi that year. I hate shit on him twice. The shit on him before because his reactions to Jay's losing his championship. They do still have a lot of love for a guy who's a stalwart of that era. But yeah, Rikishi, for example, was kind of tested a lot in the main event that year, but was the opposite. He kind of sank, just like Jay would all those years later. But you don't know until you're like shifting these guys around. And they do not do this enough this year. They just put the same people in. The problem is, a lot of these fucking main eventers are old. It's as simple as that. If I compare to 2000, my god, man. Rock, Jericho, both in the 20s. Benoit and Angle were probably about 30. Same with Triple H. Austin, even, was probably only about 35. 33, 34, if that. Taker, probably all the same. Kane, probably all 30. Nowadays, you have Punk, who's like 47, 48. LA Knight, time to run that one in, 40. He's what, 40? Jey Uso's 41, I think. Roman's probably in his 40s. Seth's probably late 30s, pushing 40. Cody's 40. But they're all 40 somethings. At some point, you've got to put your faith in the future. They're constantly talking about it. Heyman says, Braun Breaker, the future of WrestleMania. He's the now. Obafemi? Oh, we'll get to Obafemi. I fucking love this dude. I've been saving him for the Cena tournament. Um, People like that, they're on the now. They need to start in the next year or two pushing these people forward. Mello's another one. In the last show, before I recorded this, he finally won the UFC Championship, and I'm absolutely delighted for him. He deserves it. But yeah, I just really wanted to encapsulate, because I'm going to stop going month by month now. This video needs to wrap up. I've yapped for too long. I mean, I'm summing up an entire year. I barely even touched NXT or AAA or anything like that. Or Hulk Hogan's death. We'll just say R.I.P. Hulk. I know he had his divisive character and a lot of detractors who criticised him, but I just tried to think of his contributions to wrestling when he died, and yeah, he changed the industry more than anyone. Full stop. Well, except Vince. But in terms of any actual wrestler performer, He was the most important of all. But yeah, awesome was that in the end, Seth Rollins gets injured, which is sad to see. You know, even though I don't think it was quite working out with him leading this division, I feel like they're actually better with Heyman. I feel like they're better off now. He, it wasn't intended. He was very much in plans for Survivor Series for War Games. God, we'll get to that. There's a rant in there. But yeah, he got injured against Cody Rhodes in what was a great show. That really was a good show. I enjoyed from start to finish. Every match that show was good. The Cena Styles one was great. That was his match of the year. I get it was goofy. I love though that they did a lot of, and Cena did this a lot in the last few matches of his career when he was a face. He kept doing stealing finishes from some of his great rivals who he hadn't had the chance to be in the ring with in his retirement tour. Even some he did. Like he did Orton's signature, got the guy in like by the head, dragged him over the middle rope and planted the DDT. He did like the Edge spear and stuff. He did the Bray Wyatt Sister Abigail. You know, his little moments like that were great. That was banger. The Io and Rhea feud versus Kabuki Warriors. I think that story and build up was, while very simple, very good. I feel like Kyrie, when she returned in May, um, was really struggling. She was a bit sloppy the first few months, and I was thinking, man, is she washed? I always liked Kyrie. Always been fond of her. She might be washed. Might have to fucking chuck her out the trash. But then Asuka returned. Did a Queen of the Ring program. Lost to Jay, which is just makes me feel sick to think about. That's it. Putting over Jay. But anyway, they paired up and they've both been great since then. Especially Kyrie's just new lease of life, you know. Kyrie's not quite Kyrie without Asuka, and Asuka's not quite Asuka without Kyrie. I think they just make each other better. Um, so they had a really good feud and a good match. Obviously, Rhea's at home as well in Australia, so crowd were big into it. Dominic was also on that night, I think, was it? Was it Dom? I can't think what the other match was. I feel like Priest and Black should have been that show, actually. But it was nice to see them at SmackDown maybe. I don't remember the other one, but the other one was decent, I think. And then the main event, yeah, Cody went over Roman. Sorry, Seth went over Cody, which I think was the right decision. Yeah, I know they're scared to give Cody a loss a lot of the time. Cena's retirement, PLE. Yeah, but yeah, they're scared to give him a loss. But if they're finally going to give him one, well, Seth Rollins is always in with a show. He did get the win. I think the story before that match was really good as well. Again, simple but effective. He's talking about how they really played up to the fact that Seth had never beat Cody, and the fact that Seth had given him this watch. And, you know, they teamed together to take down the evil bloodline leader, Roman Reigns, the final boss. And then they turned loggerheads because Seth kind of became Roman in a way. The bloodline was, he was trying to emulate the division. Simple build up, but I think it was right that Seth won that. However, unfortunately, he got legit injured. The turn the next day was brilliant. Brilliantly done, I think. Braun Breaker, his mannerisms throughout that whole night, his facial expressions, you could see he was quite a bit off. Did the opening segment and they were walking down the aisleway. Seth leading Paul Heyman and Bronson Reed, and Braun Breaker was kind of trailing behind them. And right at the death of the show, they show the credits, think it's about to end, bam, Sphere takes him out. And we know what happened. I'm not going to recap stage by stage, but they all turn. I've been more receptive to the Vision since then, for whatever reason. Maybe because they finally, you know, the point of the Vision was always the young guys. Braun Breaker, Bronson Reed, and what is now Logan Paul and Austin Theory. And that was the point, to see them emerge and them step up the shadow, and they'd finally done that. So maybe then that's why I instantly got more invested. Then and there, I would have annoyed Braun Breaker. Why not fuck around? Or why fuck around rather and wait? Apparently, because they cheered, the fans cheered, or were just like, holy shit, when he took out Rollins. I can understand that they weren't sure whether the Bronze would be treated as faces when they came back. I feel like you could have easily fixed that though. I mean, they did basically. Promo where they bring in the belt. They've still got the belt. They refuse to relinquish it. So they make Adam Pearce look like a little bitch because he has to be like, please give it back to me, bro. Please give me the belt. Then they give it to Paul Heyman first. Yeah, he won't hand it directly. But they had a number one contender battle royale that night. CM Punk was already number one contender. He'd done that previously. Jay, so I mean, everyone was already so fed up at that point of just seeing Jay Uso versus CM Punk for like the eighth time and in some variation. And the guy, although he remained over in terms of the live crowd, that it was see the fan base online just turning on. They were downvoting everything, downvoting every video of his wins, his moments, and it was just an awful decision, man. Like, I'd sooner Jimmy get it than him. But honestly, like legit, it should have been LA Knight. Should have been LA Knight versus CM Punk on first of November's Saturday Night Main Event for the vacant World Heavyweight Championship, and LA Knight should have won it if they weren't going to do Braun Breaker, and they did. He wasn't even in the fucking match. That was part of the kayfabe punishment. Oh, you didn't give me the belt. Well, I'm not going to put you in a fucking match. Both of the Browns were banned from it, and he was basically. There's so many things wrong. I mean, that whole show is a fucking shit show. Tiffany's lackluster reign finally ended. Jade beat her at like the fifth attempt. But to try and protect Tiffany, they had I don't know if it was legit injury or not, but they had a selling injury to a knee. So Jade had just turned heel, which I do think is a good decision. She had to do it. She's a natural heel anyway. Um, and it's just a way to book her. She has to squash people, I guess. She's kind of like Goldberg, I guess, female Goldberg. But that was just one shit reign transitioning to a similar shit reign. And a champion who's only champion because there was no one else, basically, because Charlotte likes don't want to work solos, basically. That's why she's champ. And because Naomi's on maternity leave. Because Bianca's fingers fucked. That was a bad match. To be fair, I think that was the night where Dom versus Rusev versus Penta culminated, and I did say I love them three working together, so that was good. The Jey Uso versus CM Punk that night, awful match, awful finish, a few botches. I never gave a man did themselves proud, and I love CM Punk. He was another one, man, who obviously I knew the name, I knew the legend of CM Punk, but I'd never actually seen a huge amount of his work, but you see greatness in him from time to time. I think at times time as well. I mean, guy's like 40 or 48, so I'll cut some slack. I mean, there have been times this year where he's kind of been a bit nude, but every now and again you do see the fire come out. And my God, is he a legend of pro? Or one of the best ever, arguably the best ever. I mean, very few could hang with him at his peak on programs. And yeah, he can still produce banger matches. Jey Uso's not allergic to a good match as well. He can still do them. His match with Roman Reigns against the Bronx at SummerSlam, I really enjoyed as an opener. But I'd say you better as a tag. he's just a tag team wrestler. Some people are better in certain divisions, and that is him. Um, his match was awful. I think it was an awful decision to have CM Punk finally win the title. Yes, he won it at SummerSlam, but his moment was taken by Seth Rollins in that amazing cash-in. Loved everything they did. Loved the build up to that and how it was executed. Yeah, the fake injury and all that shit. After he went for a grueling match with Gunther, he gets snatched away from him. A lot of people expected it to be like he never gets his hands on it. Seth Rollins made it a real point in his long running feud. I'm never going to let him get his hands on the title. I think it was better in a way that he did actually get his hands on it for all of 5 minutes. Seth cashed in and then took it. I think that worked out better in the end. Whereas I wouldn't have made that call beforehand. So, credit where it's due within when they do stuff that I don't expect or wouldn't personally do, but turn out better. This, having Punk finally win his world championship, was win it to keep for the first time in like 12 years, is it? On a Saturday night main event against fucking Jey Uso as a vacant championship. He only won it because their first choice got injured. And a lot of the fan expectation after that was Braun Breaker. It's his time. He should take it. It felt like he was a fourth choice on like some fucking C-list show. Yeah, I don't know about it, man. Making him champion, I don't mind. It's just the way it was done. I feel like there should have been a way of crowning him at a time and a place and an opponent and a circumstance that dictated it. I would have had it in Mania coming up. Um, but it is what it is. At the end of the day, I'm not going to blame CM Punk being champ because he is great. He is a legend. He is a Hall of Famer in waiting. Oh, we're getting there. Almost the 3 hour mark. Damn, I expected this to be about 2 hours or so, 2.5 hours. Sorry, guys, I've been yapping a bit. But it's been a busy year, clearly. But we'll wrap up then. The last major story of the year, really, was John Cena's retirement itself, the actual retirement. Now, I briefly touched upon what I would do to fix the company. I said I'd talk about this at the end. I guess I'll talk about it now because the whole focus. Oh, we didn't even talk about War Games. All right, I'll summarize this quickly. The women's War Games match, incredible babyface team, stacked ridiculously so. Like they're always going to win. The most stacked, one of the most stacked War Games teams ever, actually, on both babyface sides. Same with the men. It was so stacked. Um, I think the heels winning the men's War Games was the right decision. The way it was done with the Masked Man, I wasn't that massive fan. I don't hate it. I don't love it. I just kind of, nah. But it was a decent match. The men's War Games match. That one was definitely better than the women's, which I thought was just. I wouldn't say it was bad. It was just safe. It was to kind of watch it once and never watch it again kind of match. You know what I mean? Like it was fine for what it was on. I was mildly entertained. But again, maybe because I generally have a bias to prefer watching the women this year than the men. I think they produce high quality in general. But yeah, I just don't think, I think this match is safe. And then Dominic losing to John Cena in Boston. I did like that. I don't think he necessarily needed the IC Championship. A lot of people wanted him to do the Grand Slam. But it was a great promo when Dominic comes out. He's like, I don't know, put you down, all this shit. Again, I love Dom. He's the future. He's one of the future names. Cena wins the title, then loses it later on at Survivor Series. The only memorable thing from Survivor Series, the only great part of it, really, was Liv coming back, obviously. She was sorely missed. I love Liv as well. She'd been out for 5 months, getting injured around June, July. It's good to see her back. Yeah, I thought Survivor Series was dog shit. I don't think it was the worst PLE of the year, and that was WrestlePalooza. Man, I didn't even touch upon AJ Lee's return. I'll touch upon this quickly. Just great to see her. She came from an era that she was 2 steps ahead of everyone. Not until Paige really came up
with anyone on a star level. In terms of in ring, Caitlyn and Natty were on a level. Natty could never get over in 18 years. I love the woman. Respect the hell out of her. She's a workhorse. She's a legend, but she was never a star. Never get over it. Look at Dean Malenko of women's wrestling. She is, incredible wrestler, great mentor, very respected. She's going to be an amazing agent. But yeah, no, the crowd didn't care. Uh, Caitlin was just underrated. Yeah, wonderful to see AJ Lee again. One of the returns of the year. I'd still be biased, perhaps, to say Alexa. Ilya's return was an amazing return as well. One of those. But yeah, just great to see it. I liked that match. I think some people were critical of it, but I think it was the only match on Wrestle Blues, right? Kind of half gave a fuck about, to be honest. I thought it was okay. It's fine. And since then, some people have been critical. Some people even start turning against her. Oh, she's disappeared. She's lost her momentum now. Didn't expect that. She's not wrestled for decades. Like, her career was kind of short anyway, as it was. She was only ever really well for about 6 years. She's kind of more brought back for attraction matches, kind of similar to Brock Lesnar for now, anyway. I feel like give her a bit of time to get up to speed and sort out other things in her life. Maybe she'll get to a point where she's. I mean, Nikki Bella, to be fair, big critical of her, but she's been around most weeks. She's been on TV most weeks since she came back. After also not wrestling regularly for a decade. But they both quit. Nikki quit around 2017. AJ was 2015, to be fair. So a little longer. But yeah, she wasn't a consistent performer for many years and has been on most weeks. I never expect that from AJ Lee. I think anyone who did is just a fucking idiot, to be honest. She'll come back for Major Pro feelings. She'll be at the Rumble next. That'll be next time we see her. And then she might be in the Chamber. And then she'll be at Mania. And then next time we might see her might be Money in the Bank. They'll put her in all these matches because she's a big draw, big name. Same way they did with Alexa this year. For example, she came back, they put her in all these matches. Rhea Ripley, she'll always be in all these matches because the marquee name you out for the big field. I just want to go on one little digression here. I will say that Bayley should be one of these marquee names. And for whatever fucking reason, she has been treated like garbage this year. She has banger after banger. Everyone loves Bayley. She's great, man. Probably my favourite horsewoman, actually, and that's saying something. But I love what Becky's done this year, and I've really, really grown to like Charlotte this year. Sasha, we do. I don't like. I actually hate. She's probably the only wrestler in well I hate. Legit, like, I would have nuclear go. I hate she turned up in WWE. But yeah, so Bayley should be on these kind of names. He's guaranteed on all the big PLEs. And for whatever reason, she's not been on one since the Rumble. Well, I do think of Chamber as big five PLEs. If one of them has to be, still big four PLEs, but one of them has to be, like I said, that would be big five. Bayley wasn't that. Yeah, War Games were shit. During War Games, I think they announced John Cena last time is now told. In fact, no, tell a lie. This began sooner. It was advertised. The second it was advertised, I became excited. I mean, I was always going to watch the show anyway. John Cena's final match. Everyone was tuning in. But there was a big focus and emphasis made by John Cena himself, centered around the fact that they're going to build the last show full of NXT talent versus main roster talent as like exhibitions. Bayley was at least on this show. It's all really good. A good match. I love the idea, love the concept. I haven't been able to touch on NXT as much. I mean, this video's already overly gone, so I'm not going to. But I will say this: I think NXT's been comfortably better than SmackDown this year. It's something I may review on the weekly in future, or I might just do like a monthly review or whatever the fuck. We'll see. Maybe I'll just do one show a week. Just a show, like my fucking house. Just do this casually. I might do one every week summarising three of the shows and the Pia Leaf as well. I think that might be better. Yeah, NXT's been great for you. Uh, and I love the fact that they've showcased some of these talents and they are long overdue. I mean, they lost the fucking these people, especially SmackDown. SmackDown's men's main event scene, Thailand solo division needs something. Raw's tag team division the whole year is something. And right now, the Stephanie Vaquer kind of needs someone because all the stars they decided to put in the tag division. Once Charlotte and Alexa had the success they had, the Rhea and Io went down to the tag division, so on. So it's great to see some names get showcased. Obafemi was champion of NXT for most of the year. Uh, he he's just a star. He is the star for me. The faces of the company, futures of the company. There's so many. There are so many 20 somethings. You have Oben, you have Braun, also Reed. I mean, I'm bracketing him with the others. He's like 36 or whatever the fuck. But, he's a future main eventer or possible future champion. Let's stick to the younger ones then. Oben, Braun, Javon, Leon Slater. I know he's with TNA, but he's done. I'm sure. In fact, I think he's going to win the NXT Championship off Ober coming up soon. That'll be it. That'll be when they sign him. Um, Trick Williams, another one. Love him. He's great. Ricky Saints. Well, again, Ricky's about 30 odd. Yeah, he's a future time. Mello, number one. Dom Mysterio, number one. Not putting these in any kind of order. Like Ober would be my number one. I think Braun is number two. Dom number three. I think they're the three big ones. But Mello has potential to do that. Be the man as well. So same with John and Leon. But let's say the future's bright. And then you'll get like the women, like Blake, for example. Blake's still only 27, I think. She's in her 20s. Just kind of crazy. You have Lyra, who's in her 20s, is fucking great wrestler. You have Roxanne, who's like 22, 23, something crazy. Kendall Gray is in her 20s. There's so many future stars came through NXT this year or coming through. Um, I feel like they should have crowned this tour. The John Cena Lifetime is now tournament. I'll try and summarize it as quickly and brutal as possible. And if it deserves to be summarized and dismissed. The worst criticism I can say of it is it was the safest tournament they could put. You had one NXT talent in there, Jerome. And he lost in round one, albeit he was using an absolute banger with Gunther. Gunther had the four best matches in this tournament. Every match, every round. Like I said, I fucking love this dude. He's a classic old school heel. Fucking love him. If I do go on to stick with more reviews, so we'll be a lot more concise because I'll be doing them weekly or whatever, not a whole year. Yeah, if I do go on to do these kind of shows, and then I'll talk more about why I fucking love him, I guess. He's just great, and they had a really, really good match. Why can't we have more matches like that? Why not have Leon versus Sheamus? I'd have fucking loved to see that. Man, when this tournament got announced and they did this big focus on NXT, I got so excited at the possibilities. It's fantasy booking, that's what it is. It didn't matter what show. And they even said, oh, they didn't have to be in the company. They had fucking idiots Mark saying, oh, maybe Jericho or Edge will be in this tournament. Edge is still contracted for AEW. Sadly, he was never going to be involved in this single assignment. So Jericho is probably coming in the Rumble. His contract is up at the end of the year. It's probably up today for all I fucking know. They'll bring him into the Rumble, I'm sure, in Saudi. And then it'll lead to probably him and I could see like him and LA Knight or him and Sami Zayn or something for Mania. Probably him and Knight. I don't think I could have booked a more boring tournament for the first 4 or 5 matches. Honestly, it was just like they were just random TV matches. To WWE, this is an interesting one. Oh well, but we put a Raw guy against a SmackDown guy, but it's like I hate to keep shitting on Priest because I actually do like him. Um, but what was the match they did? It was Priest versus Sokoa or something like that. No, it was Priest versus Rusev. You know, WWE did exactly what I feared they would. They treat this tournament like, okay, so there's this, we can put matches out without often bothering nothing to a story, which is something else I forgot to talk about. Fuck. It links into it a bit. It's a big enough thing that happened this year that I have to talk about it, but it's a good thing. But anyway, well, let's just talk about it now, I guess, because it's timing. The US Open Challenge that Sami Zayn and Ilya did, 2 months apiece, I thought produced some excellent matches. Amazing. The problem with it now is it's run too long. It was already, for the last month or so, getting a bit long. I love both of them. Love both of their reigns. Love how both of them began and ended. Sammy's ending with the return of Ilya, the Mad Dragon, who I'd heard great things about, I'd never seen anything about, so he was so fresh. And my God, like, I was already sold on. And within 5 minutes of the dude coming in, it's just amazing. One of my favorites. Fantastic wrestler. Um, and then Mello wins it. But the reason I say that is WWE dragged and milked the shit out of this. This is what carried SmackDown after the tags division that ended, basically ended with the Wyatts defending at SummerSlam. So there's your 3 eras. It was Cena carried, and Sykes carried, US Open champion. Problem with this was there's no story, of course, and that's why an open challenge is always kind of like a cowardly way to book in a way. It's the easy way out. Oh, you just throw a match. Yeah, it's exciting because any fucker can walk out, but there's no story behind it. And clearly, the creative team just lack creativity, so they love this shit. Proof in the pudding in the fucking matches and how they booked it. Instead of doing these fancy bookings, oh, let's put future stars. Let's scoop up a handful of NXT guys, throw them in. Or let's just, yeah, they could have done. I can see why they didn't do it. US Open champ at the time, but Ilya versus, Ilya versus Gunter, for example. Imagine that for a banger. Oh, man. Yeah, I'd have shook up the boats, just try different things. Why not do Penta versus Rayfield? Brothers? Oh, I think I'm bank that would be. But no, they didn't have any fun with it or anything. It was just fucking played. What they did is they treated this company, most of the fucking matches, most of the participants, as something to do for the people who were mired in mid card hell because they and lower card hell because they didn't know what the fuck to do with them or didn't know what to happen. Like a Priest, like Rusev had the good run for the IC title, but where did he go after that? He's not going to go and challenge for the World Championship. He's not a tag team. There's no other cunt they could think of to make him feud with, so we'll just throw him in the tournament. These people didn't really need exposure. It was supposed to be about the future. It was supposed to be all kind of matches that you don't normally see. And the first seven of the first 8 participants that were competing in this tournament were over the age of 42. And the other one was 38. I remember ranting on Twitter about this. It's like, good fun. They have Jay Uso in this tournament and LA Knight. I love LA Knight, but why is he in this tournament? Oh, he was in there to get close, to make it to the final and lose. Because, of course, they have to give his fans something, some hope, and then snatch it away. Like, I would have had Leon in this tournament, as well as Javon. I would have had. Why not throw Miles Bourne in? Why not throw Trick in? Be all and end all, what I would have done if I had a fancy booking, I would have had Obafemi in this tournament. I would have had him meet Gunther in the final. The idea that fan always value how himself Gunther wins and retires soon. I was never really a big fan of it. Can't even say for now for sure, oh, I haven't over winning with that because my God, was the heat for Gunther. I kind of enjoyed the match. I don't think it was a banger. It was okay, but I actually kind of didn't mind the finish. A lot of people hated it, tapped out with his smile and stuff, but it all became worth it. I was kind of undecided until the next night, but then Gunther come out to this monster heel reaction, chorus of boos. And he's just like the biggest heel in wrestling right now because of it. Would that have been bad for Oba? I would have had Oba win the tournament, go over Gunther, and then retire soon. Because I just thought of it as like what platform for the main roster for him. Maybe there'll be something better with him. Feel like he might lose the title coming up at NXT New Year's Evil, which is a week to yeah, in fact no it's yeah, I think it's week today, as I record this. Yeah, it's kind of inevitable really. I was thinking of after that show, because on that same Simon show, after Gunther goes on to win the tour, of course. Largely uninspired tournament. You can say how much of a fucking shambles it was. Sheamus had to pull out at one point, and they had a chance to put someone new in. Joe Hendry, why the fuck is he not in the tournament? It's another one. Surely it was a no-brainer. Put him in. The only good things they did. Well, they have Mello go quite deep and get over. They put Gunther against Javon, which I thought was a great showcase for Javon. Fucking love Javon. They handled the returns of Nick Nemeth, Dolph Ziggler, and Matt Cardona, i.e. Zack Ryder, really well. I enjoyed both of their returns and their matches. Of course, they both lost first round. Forget what expected that. Unexpected banger. Solo Sikoa versus who did he face? He faced someone in a banger. Gunther, I think it was. Yeah, that was a banger. Gunther just gets a good match, Yeah, he goes on to win the tournament, of course. Like I said, Bailey Solruka I thought was good. I like Sol a lot. I hope she's on the main roster soon. Bailey is the most underrated woman in wrestling still, after all these fucking years. I keep an eye on it, watch it occasionally now and again. Come back in 2025. It's one of those moments where, if you've asked me at the start of the year, do you think Bailey's getting flowers yet? I've been like, oh, surely. No, apparently not. It's ridiculous. Yeah, I think the tag match was a good call. Javon and Leon on the show. It's AJ and Dragon Phoenix. AJ kind of stumbled on a move there. It's a bit fortunate. You can tell he was beating himself up, but still, good match. Um, bro, if ever anyone doubted Ogre is ready for the here and now, this guy is wrestling. This guy is box office. He could be the guy. He's a generational talent. He is the one I rank as the next big thing. Sorry, Brock. I'm going to steal your old moniker here. People talk about Bron Breakker. Ooh, no shade to it. Comparing it to Ogre, I fucking love him. Comparing it to Dom, again, amazing. All these guys I mentioned before have all got bright futures if WWE handle them right. For the shoddy handle of Julia this year, I didn't trust them with them now. Julia is a star who they make him look like a fucking chump. But yeah, if they get it right, like the sky's limit with Over. He went in with Cody. I referenced this before, but I was so pissed off. Why didn't they let him beat Cody? Why not? What the fuck does Cody lose from that? Even if Drew comes in and distracts him, at least pick up the win. They're too afraid to do it. No, instead it ends in a DQ. Just when the match was starting to warm up. It was a real shame. It was getting going. Going all right for 7, 8 minutes. Just starting to get hype. Over kind of manhandled them around for most of it. I don't want to go into the blow by blow of a lot of matches because this video has gone way too long. That is for more future reviews. But yeah, the year ended with a glimpse into the future, which was what John Cena intended, which is great. Now, the Cena retirement itself, as I said, I think I didn't mind the end. I guess the way he smiled as he tapped out and stuff, I saw it more as he's run his run. He's had all these years of never give up, and he finally got to a point where he's like, "Yeah, I'm all right, Cody. I've given it my all. I'm fine with saying that I've lost to the Batman tonight." So he just tapped. I saw it like that. Well, the crowd went fucking berserk. They were booing, they were going bullshit. Triple H and all his crew come out. Everyone comes out from Gorilla, uh, ringside, gets booed to shit. But yeah, it was certainly an unfortunate end to see everyone get booed. But then they showed the big package and stuff, and I would expect John Cena to maybe be in the Hall of Fame coming up. I'm not sure though whether they'll do it this year or next. Maybe would he want it in Saudi? The Saudis would love that as a marketing point. Oh, the John Cena gets inducted into Hall of Fame, I guess. It would make more sense. He's just retired to do it in 2026. But I don't know whether they'll do it. It wouldn't surprise me, for example, the only person they've announced so far for this year's Hall of Fame is Stephen McMahon. Wouldn't surprise me if they make the fucking headline. I wouldn't even have that too big a qualm for that as well. Just depends who else goes in. Stephanie McMahon, I think, does deserve a spot in the Hall of Fame. Uh, is she a first ballot name? Headliner? Maybe not, but we'll see who else goes in. Yeah, maybe Cena will be one of them. So all in all, as the year went on, I got progressively more disillusioned with what they're doing. I didn't even do enough of a rant about June. So like, they put this woman with the likes of Mitch and well, I don't like to name. They're just ice cold. They're not over. They killed her right from the off. Gave her Kiana James. No hate on Kiana James. Look, shucks, you're quite good. I kind of like it. They don't need each other. They do nothing for each other. Julia doesn't need a speaker. She spoke herself on NXT. Her English isn't incredible, but it's no worse than Io's or Asuka's or Kyrie's or Vaquer's. They don't have speakers. So you see shit like this, and yeah, I'm sure if I do like weekly reviews or whatever the fuck, maybe I do them after each show. Maybe I do them each week. Maybe I do them each month. I do think I'll do more videos like this, but they'd be a lot more concise than, a whole year's worth of topics, which I've skipped so many as well that I would have ordinarily covered if it started this year. So maybe we'll do that 2026. We'll cover more bases and do it with more regularity so I can talk more about the matches themselves, about the wrestlers, the feuds in depth rather than, oh, that was good. Well, that was shit. Yeah, this was kind of, I can't even say brief. But closing in 3.5 hours here. If you're still here, you're a trooper. Fair play. But I think WWE was just very up and down this year. A lot of people who've watched the last few years said likened that to almost a renaissance of maybe getting the glory years back. I grew up watching the greatest years of wrestling, so it's a hard act to follow. But I would not be here now if I didn't believe in roster. I didn't believe in wrestlers. The talent's there. They have moments of greatness, of the writing story when you do things justice. Like I said, Evolution was a great feeling. Women, David Hart. Shane was a good feeling. There are moments in there. So we'll see. Yeah, wish list for 2026. Promote a lot of talent to SmackDown's Women's division, first and foremost. Put them in a solo division. Or just start to dissolve some of these tag. As much as I love that the women's tag division is suddenly the focal point, it's thriving. You have all your stars there, basically, except Vaquer. But she's left with Nikki Bella, who the crowd just can't buy as a potential champion because she's been gone for a fucking decade and she's 41. Like, I don't know, man. I don't understand. It's like they went from one extreme, and the tag division's just got no one, but the current champs who struggle to get matches, to all of a sudden this year, it's just the focus. It's even going back. They were doing it for a while. They made Bianca, Naomi, and Jay champs. So they had a good rate. Liv and Raquel were having a good rate. Um, but it wasn't really until the big star duo since Sasha and Bailey were champs in 2020. It's Charlotte Flair, and they really put the focus on it heavy now. But that's a wish list, yeah. Get some of these women up from NXT who are kind of meandering. You know, where's Jaden? She's been gone for weeks. I'm expecting her to arrive any day. She would probably go on Raw because she's seen Jey Uso, I think. So put her on Raw or whatever. Take Bailey and Lyra, can barely get on shows. Put them on SmackDown. You know, it's not even necessarily you have to promote women up, but you have to hire women. Apparently Anna Jay might be coming from the AEW to NXT. So there's one slot come in, push one up. Just hire other women from the indies or bring in women. They have the luxury of being able to bring in who the fuck they want from TNA. They could take Charlotte Flair back out of the tag division, make them go solo, because heaven knows SmackDown would be much better off if they were holding the two solo belts than they are right now. Um, I mean, no hate against Chelsea there, who I think is great actually. But at the end of the day, she spent most of the summer jobbing to fucking Alexa and Charlotte and Zelina and Julia. So, yeah, I mean, then they give her the belt. It just kind of devalues the belt by extension, even though Chelsea needs fuck great. It's just, it's baffling. I'm hoping to see those changes. You could take them out of the division and I mentioned TNA. Why not bring the Iconics back over if they want to? Sign them. Kenny Royce. Go with the call, no. It's some similar name, some other I or something. It's like the Immeasurables or some bullshit like that. The Expendables, maybe. I can't remember the name, but yeah, it's something similar. Bring it over and Javon. It looks like Over Javon and Trick might all be coming up and might all be on SmackDown, which is a hell of a change. And as well as giving Mello the US Championship is great. I don't like the fact that sometimes I hope Ilya's got something good in the pipeline because they seem to not have a fucking clue what to do with Sami Zayn once his US Open run ended. The fuck's he been doing? He's just there. He was kind of messing with the MFTs for a while, who were just dead. Like they're trying to get them over, and I do like Solo. I think he's got something, but there's just nothing to the characters. We don't really know who they are. Like they're just nameless faces. They all sound the same as well. Tamatonga, then Tamatonga, Tomatanga, Timmy Tonga, Chimichonga, fucking Changi Chinga. I don't know who the fuck these are. There's a different one every week. Which one's that one again? Oh, it's Jeff Cobb, JC Mateo. it would be easier to remember the names or names of faces because they all have the fucking same war paint on now. If you distinguish between them, if you give them some character. The only differences are no. JC Mateo, he's small, but he looks like Bronson Reed. But and then there's the guy who comes out and he makes weird noise. That one's Tamatoga, I think. He was kind of teasing something with Dragonov, but obviously that's probably not now. No. Yeah, it's just like it needs work. Raw's men's tag division needs work. Raw needs to do something different with Stephanie McCare. She's starting to get to the point now where she's only people are watching her matches and just waiting for Devil's Kiss. And man, like she's such an amazing wrestler. She's wrestling to a point where she's over because of her win. Like she's the fucking I don't know. Who's a wrestler for signature move? Scotty Too Hotty when he had his win. He was a good wrestler, he was a fine wrestler, but everyone would wait for that moment. You know, and I don't want that to be what becomes of Stephanie McCare. People just think, oh, she's the girl with the huge heart who does the Devil's Kiss. No, she's one of the best wrestlers on the fucking planet. She's amazing. Like, she can have a match with a banger match at the turn of a fucking dime. Yeah, but for whatever reason, and with the lack of creative that they have, or maybe just they're not quite doing um, her 100% best. To be fair, can't exonerate the wrestler as well. She's just not. She's threatening to peter out. She was at least though. She'd have still get reactions. It's not like Julia, but I do think Julia's just been shafted by Cream to us. So I don't know, man. The main wish list for 2026, honestly, is get Road Dogg off SmackDown booking. I would swap his job with the fact that I wouldn't even swap, just straight up sack him. And I hate to say that because I did love him as a wrestler, Road Dogg, but his goodwill for me is gone. I would make sure Michael's the head booker of SmackDown because he knows how to book. I was about to say the women. No, he just knows how to book. Full stop. He also, if Oba came, if he got a division with Oba and Trick and Javon, he would know what to do with them as well. He would treat them well. Yeah, I'm going to call it there, guys. 2025, though, it was a hell of a year. It was a roller coaster year, a lot changed. WWE's debut year on Netflix, and they began to deal with ESPN, etc. Like I said, I don't know what channel this will end up going up to. I might start a new one. I might see if I can even upload. It depends, because YouTube, you need to go through hoops to get videos over an hour, I think, uploaded. So I might not even be able to do that besides my gaming one. If it is on my gaming channel, I think I would do more infrequent videos. Because I don't want it to just become just a wrestling thing. I may never do another one of these videos again. I don't know. Future's not the same. It's not my job. I'm just doing it for the fun of it. Because I like talking about wrestling. None of my mates watch it or anything like that. So it's nice to talk about it with you guys. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed. And I'll see you in 2026.